You're my lawyer?
Says here you, robbed a hospital? Why'd you do that?
Yeah, I'm not guilty.
That's not what the other lawyer said.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law Splaying the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota, joining you on this beautiful Friday night. Just kidding. Just kidding. Talk about being late, right? This stream was actually supposed to happen on Friday night after the Friday Kyle Rittenhouse stream, but let me tell you a story. If you will indulge me, let me tell you a story about just how much liquor was imbibed for the live stream on Friday for Kyle Rittenhouse's trial. The short answer is far too much. Far too much. I will show you because even though it's a little embarrassing, I think, and you can take the embarrassment in two ways. We live in a world of honesty here on this channel and openness and all of that stuff. So this is the Hague Club bottle, and on Friday it was full when I started. You can see it's here. That is where I have not had a sip since the stream on Friday. That for me is way too much. And I had a little bit of a rough evening. So that being said, I think with the massive additional amount of people that we're having for the Rittenhouse streams, I'm going to tweak the guidelines on the shots for likes just for those streams. At night, we will still do them. Really, though, it was the rule was engineered for the nighttime streams when things were in a nice slow area. So, getting to 1,000 likes a stream was kind of that was like a getting up there, and then getting to 1,500 was kind of rare for a while. So it was kind of there for encouraging people to interact with the show because it's helpful. But yeah, for the big streams, I can't do that. That's too much. And I have sometimes evening obligations. So I'm going to tweak that rule for the Rittenhouse shows. And I'm not drinking now at all because I've got something to do right after this. And we're going to get right into this this super chat catch up and Q&A. Look, I want to say out at the front, the primary goal here is to try and get through the super chats from Friday. So, and I've got them pulled up and ready to go on my spreadsheet here. But this is not the goal is not to bring in additional super chats here. I mean, if you want to send them, that's up to you. I will, of course, address them. But the goal here is to actually get through the existing ones. And the best way to do that is live. And I will also try, if I see some good questions in the chat, I will try and address them as possible. Okay. So that's with that said, we're going to get into this in just one moment. What's up, Nate? How you doing, my man? I wanted to do one more announcement today. Tonight, I think at 10 p.m. Central, but stay tuned for the announcement. I will be interviewing Robert Grueller on another live stream tonight about the Rittenhouse trial. He has been doing coverage of this. He's really sharp. He's a defense attorney down in Arizona. And so I've really been looking forward to getting his opinion on this. And it looks like tonight we will have Robert Grueller on here. And we will be discussing this trial, what his impressions are of the coverage. I think he had some differing opinions of the first day or two than I did. And so I want to get that insight because he is a sharp guy, great YouTuber, but also a criminal defense attorney. And I think his input will be really, really valuable. So that's why didn't I go to Legal Bites' stream, you leech? She invited me and I was happy to go, except I had to unfortunately, I had a family lunch with in-laws today. So, and I have a family dinner with in-laws at 6. It's 3:07, which means I need to leave my house at 5:45, which means I need to get talking about these super chats or we're not going to get done. So, no, I will gladly make it up to Legal Bites and get on her show a different time. I just could not today, as much as I really did want to. But that's unfortunately that's how weekends work out when your entire week is spent live streaming. So real quick, Wallyball1297 says, do you think it's possible the reason the FBI only gave low-res footage is to hide the identity of agents wearing IR strobes or something? If so, were the odds Zeminski's a glowy? Yes, I do think it's very likely. I don't think it's just possible. I think it's likely that FBI had people on the ground somewhere. Maybe they had identifying markers, maybe not. I don't know about that. It's certainly a reasonable sort of opportunity for them to do that. But Zeminski being a Fed, it seems like a low level possibility to me. But I don't know any of these people. Fastest hand in the West, Alec Flash says, here's to calling Flash to the stand last night. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Here we go. We are starting out with where were we? We're over here. And I did read all of the $20 plus super chats that came in on Friday. So these are all the ones below that. And normally I try to get them all on stream, but I was way too hammered and needed to lay down as fast as possible. Yes. Richard Grubber says, were you wearing your teaching shirt yesterday? You Teachy McTeacherson shirt for teaching. Yes. And I also read that one. Let's see. Angry Bainling says you snatched gayness from the jaws of early. Woo. Joshua Schmidt says, Midwest lawyer voice. Objection, Your Honor. I was on my phone during the trial here, and Nikki Ricketts is late and gay. Ted Kaczynski says, Scott at Crime Talk has a better grift, lol. I don't know who Scott at Crime Talk is. I don't know who that is. Don't know what grift that would be either. JJ says, I just realized one of your guests over the past week was Canadian. Please provide a trigger warning to prevent the future accidental exposure. I know some of these I did read, but I can't remember where I left off. So again, hitting all of the sub $20 super chats from Friday. So if you have heard some of them, that's what it's for. And again, I'll also try and grab Q&A stuff. Baron's guy says, pew, 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 pew. Big McLarge Huge says, new to the channel, already a big fan. What do you think about Barnes and his statements about the defense? Thanks. Keep it up. Free Kyle. Look, Barnes is a smart guy, and he has a lot of inside insight into the case and the team behind it. And my statements so far on this have been consistently that I think when you have a bunch of free expertise that's available and willing to help out with the case, you should take it. Now, it's important on a different hand, and Barnes has made some statements about this, and I think this could be indicative of maybe Richards' apprehension. It's important for Richards as lead counsel to maintain control of the flow of the case and who his counsel is, who he's delegating tasks to, and who is ultimately the liaison with the client, who has the most well-established attorney-client relationship. I mean, that's part of the management aspect of being lead counsel on a case, and that he may not have wanted to conflict with someone like Robert Barnes on that. Robert Barnes is a big personality, also very smart and very experienced guy with high-profile cases. So there may have been some apprehension there. Again, this is I think were I in Richards's position, I would have accepted the free help from very, very accomplished people. That's me. Other attorneys might have different strategies. So that's what I think. I think Richards had a bad day on day 2, specifically the first full day of witness testimony. His opening statement was, And then, but the first full day of witness testimony was really bad for Richards. But then the next 2 days, they picked up and they really did a good job. So we'll see how it turns out, of course. But that's my opinions on it. President-elect Austin M says, day 5 feelings, grueler pilled and opium filled. Yeet. See, there you go. Again, I think Robert Grueler has differing opinions on those first 2 days of the trial. So I'm anxious to hear those tonight. James Ridge read that one. Chris Pruitt says, I do believe Kyle Rittenhouse acted in self-defense. I don't think the perpetrators of the Ahmaud Arbery case can claim that as well. What are your opinions? Look, in the Arbery case, I think there is a world, or there is a factual scenario that is possible where they have a self-defense claim based on, if we're just looking at the video, the popular video that everybody's seen, him running and the guys following him, and the guys are in front of him, and then he darts around the car and lunges for a shotgun, and then he gets shot. I think there is a fact scenario with that video in which the McMichaels have a claim of self-defense. It's all of the surrounding facts outside of the video that make it a real problem for the McMichaels. And I do not think at this point, from what I've seen and heard from competent people covering the case, like Nate the lawyer, for example, who is going to be doing Arbery coverage all week. I think Joe from Good Logic is doing some Arbery coverage as well. From what I have heard about the factual status of the case from Nate and Joe, I'm not hopeful about their chances. And that's a big difference between their case and the Rittenhouse case. The Arbery case has 30 seconds to a minute of footage, and it builds a very quick snapshot of the surrounding context in that incident. Whereas Kyle's case has minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes, hours even, of footage, both of the incident, surrounding the incident, from multiple angles, from multiple sources. And you're able to build factually from the video a much more complete picture. That's another reason the Kyle Rittenhouse case shouldn't be brought to trial. And I think one of the biggest strengths for the defense, and I think they're smart doing this in photos that isolate incidents in this very quick hectic situation that he was in, is these photos illustrate grabbing the gun. The photos illustrate the lunging, the reaching, how close they got, the surrender, the pulling the gun after. All of those things can be snapped in screenshots and photographs, and then it can be laid over the speediness of the drama. Again, shooting Rosenbaum is less than 1 second. It's 3/4 of a second to put 4 shots into him. And that, when you go, here's what's going on, and bam, 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 it paints a picture. And same thing with Huber and Grosskreutz. This stuff happens in a span of 15, 20 seconds. He is kicked. He is hit with a skateboard. He returns fire. Then a guy comes up feigning surrender and pulls a gun on him, and he shoots him too. Like, that is so fast. And I think you get those screen grabs, and it's a very visual case that makes a very compelling story. Arbery and the McMichaels, not as much. James Ridge says, sorry for typos, his guns among others. You never have to apologize for a typo in a super chat. Never once. But I do appreciate when you do. Mag says, thank you for covering this and giving good play-by-play for us normies and those of us concerned for the future of self-defense. You and your guests are doing great work. Hey, thank you. And my guests are all fantastic, and I really hope people go check out their channels. I've heard they are getting some good subscribers from it. Make sure you go check them out, especially if you like their personalities on the show. They're all very, very great streamers and commentators. Jonathan Galtierini says, so my friend got a vasectomy and still got his wife pregnant. He thinks he's shooting blanks. Meanwhile, he's shooting live rounds right into her stomach. Who the hell is he? Alec Baldwin. G-Man read that one. President-elect Austin M says, Binger is strategizing the potentially favorable witnesses with a backup discrediting argument. I bet he doesn't have anything like that for Grosskreutz. No, he doesn't have that for Grosskreutz. Binger was stuck in a really tough position. Binger was stuck in a really, really tough position on this case because, again, people were talking about, is Binger throwing the case? Is Binger acting, is he trying to secretly get Kyle off? No, Binger is putting forth the best case that he can with the facts that he has. And the reality of Kyle's trial is that the facts are so bad for the state and so good for Kyle that Binger is just stuck trying to manage it the best he can. And he is doing a competent job. It's just that when the facts are going to come out and your witnesses are people who are all basically friends or politically aligned or motivationally aligned with the defendant, you got to be ready to discredit your own witnesses after you get what you want out of them and hope the jury doesn't notice that you just did that. Britt Cormier says, how do these people covering the trial not have their streams set up in advance? Good advice for someone that has been too late 2 days in a row. But I already had the link set up is what I mean. That's what I mean. I already had the link where people could have the landing page. Law and Crime, these guys, they should have their link set up so that people can be in the waiting room waiting for their coverage to start. That's what I was talking about. But yes, thank you for insulting me. I am now going to cry. Shadow Fenrir says, do you think when Gage hits the stand, Richards will dismantle his testimony? I'm curious what the PA thinks he will bring to the table. The prosecuting attorney. Gage is going to bring his own state of mind about Kyle Rittenhouse. Gage is going to say that he thought he was stopping an active shooter. Gage is going to say that he Gage is going to say that he was worried about Anthony Huber, all of these things. Gage is also there to say that he was armed and he didn't shoot anybody, that he was, that he was out there being nonviolent and that again, these militia guys were not the only people out there trying to keep things peaceful and defend property or whatever. I mean, that's kind of the idea. Gage is the only living quote unquote victim that is opposed to Kyle on this case. That's why Gage is being brought. Now, will they get to impeach his character for truthfulness? Will they get to impeach his character in other ways? Hopefully. One of the things, he didn't mention to police that he had a gun. Those types of statements are going to be, he's a complaining witness, which makes him a party, I believe, under the rules of evidence. And so any statements that he has made to police or others, potentially even including his after court statements that he wish he would have, filled Kyle with bullets or whatever, those are potentially fair game to bring those up to go after his credibility for being just a peaceful guy who's there trying to show his support for Jacob Blake. Right. So again, even the good witnesses for this state have been real problems. DNA expert was a big problem. DNA expert testimony went terribly for the state. But Gage is probably the witness they have spent the most time with, the most time preparing for. He is probably their last witness, and he is the last impression that the state wants to leave the jury with. So you can imagine, again, you're making a 4-course meal that ends with dinner. Man, the one you want to focus on your appetizer or your salad or whatever you're starting with. You want that to be a banger, and you want that last dish that they eat to be the best thing that they've had in a month. And that way they walk away, they forget about the middle 2 dishes. And if you want to know why the McGinnis and Balch are sandwiched in between a bunch of other stuff, that's why. They want the jury to forget about the unpleasantness of those middle testimonies, and they really want the first and the last testimonies to stick. The first was the one Elijah Washington, or Corey Washington. Corey Elijah is his handle, but Corey Washington. I don't think he went as well as they hoped he would, but I think maybe, and this is going to sound awful, but I really do think the prosecution wanted a black guy on the stand. Because remember, all of this is predicated on racial tension over the shooting of Jacob Blake. And they just could not find a black witness to get up on the stand. And I think that's why they got Corey Washington. He was there. He's favorable. People were telling me that when they checked out his Facebook page, he seems to be somewhat of an activist. And so this guy they probably thought was, he's on their side, and frankly, he's black, and that's the optic that they're looking for when every other witness involved in this case about racism is white. Every other witness is white. So I think that's why they put him first. And then I think, and then they got Gage in there. So that's going to be interesting. Is Gage the only witness testifying tomorrow? Is a great question. Almost guaranteed, yes. It's technically as long as the prosecution and then the defense want to spend on him, but almost a guaranteed yes. Gage will take all day tomorrow and may go a decent way into Tuesday. Let's see. Pro Gunner says, could the judge step in if the jury convicts? Yes. And I was just talking to some relatives about this over lunch. They're actually, under Wisconsin law, there are 2 places prior to the jury being involved at all, other than watching the case, where the judge can step in on some of these charges. After the prosecution's case in chief, the defense can make a motion to dismiss and say that there's insufficient evidence to support a reasonable juror saying that beyond any reasonable doubt, this guy is guilty. Then, if that doesn't work, after the defense's case in chief, after the defense has rested their case, they can go ahead and motion again for dismissal or a directed verdict. Dismissal would be not enough evidence to bring this, or we have contravailing evidence. Directed verdict is more like a summary judgment where we take all of the facts in this case as true. Here are the facts, by the way. Here are the important facts. And we take all these as true, and Kyle is still not guilty. So the judge does have 2 opportunities prior to a jury if the defense asks for them. And in my opinion, and I think Nate and I talked about this on Viva's show, I think we agree they should be taking these. With this judge and with this fact set, that's where they should be. They should be at least making the attempt, put it in the judge's head, because after the jury decides, if the jury convicts Kyle, they can then make a motion for what's called a judgment notwithstanding of the verdict. And that is where the judge comes in and says, again, no reasonable juror could, under these facts, actually find a charge of guilty, and therefore I'm going to vacate the judgment. So that is a possibility as well. So there are 3 opportunities for that to happen. Hope that helps answer your question. I don't know if you're even here. Barry Soitoro says, do we know what the dismissed juror's joke was specifically? Yes, it came out that he said, do you know why the police shot Jacob Blake 7 times? And then the punchline is because they ran out of bullets. Some people asserted that was a racist joke. I would contest that joke was much more focused on police shooting black people, and that police were so trigger happy that they would have shot the black guy even more if they only had more bullets. That's how I hear the joke. I don't know, but needless to say, the juror kind of had to go. And I think that's a good removal, because I think that guy is likely aligned against Kyle Rittenhouse from that joke. And that's why I can never be on a jury, because I would tell jokes about literally everything. Do Elmo says, I love Peter Bayless. Yes, Littlefinger Binger is a thing right now. Decode Diesel says, shout, shove, show, shoot is a standard escalation of force you're taught as an infantryman. Right. And I did not think that testimony, that fact was great for the prosecution. He also, I believe, Balch lied about, because they said, did you ever have to do more than shout? And he said no. But I'm pretty sure I saw some hand to body contact from some of the people that were there, and maybe even Balch himself in the video, but it's kind of fuzzy because there's a whole lot of video. But I do think there was some hand to body contact at the car source of people coming on the property and them saying, hey, nope, not here. You're not coming on this property. That's why we're here. Y'all just move along. I think that there was some shoving. I don't know that they ever got to shoot. There's some showing. There is some allegations that they did, but I don't know if that's substantiated. Green Irish Knight says, Your Honor, what snacks did Mr. Balch buy from the gas station? And Mr. Balch, were you part of this meal team 6 that I heard of? Bunny Hair Rabbit says these guys suck at saying curse words. The court stenographer might be cringing. Yes, absolutely cringing. Not applicable says, hey, how's your audio balancing today, butthole? I don't know. You have to tell me. But you guys are an unreliable witness. Just want to point that out. Barry Soitoro says, Ed Grimley thinks the prosecution's hair is on fleek. John RSC 64 says, Joseph Frozenball, the captions are great. Yeah, I like when they have captions. I try to get a stream that has captions, but sometimes the audio is terrible. Sometimes the audio hangs up. So we work with what we got. We work with what they got. Space Reptile says Schroeder would have let a-holes fly if he added a hard R to it. I can't believe the judge is like, he's like, these a-holes, and the judge is like, hey, you're in court. And it's like, he said a-holes, judge. That's like the most logical, plausible, probable. Says, was a Marine afraid of this guy versus a kid? Yeah, that's, were you afraid of him? No, I wasn't. Oh, well, yeah, you're a Marine. Kyle 17. Tor Theo says, if the man is let, you must convict. Binger, probably. Let? I don't know what that means. Spook Horse says, how many times do you think he practices the line about the weapons in the mirror every morning? Not enough. Barry Soitoro says, let the record show the witness did the hokey pokey. The Aurora Zone says, objection, Mr. Binger is obviously an agent of the Empire. He was wearing a Star Wars Rebel pin on the lapel. I'm like, why is that a thing? Why is that a thing? And Good Karma, you're right. Good Karma says, seems like everyone is trying to save their asses from lawsuits. And that was a big part of the testimony of the 2 CarSource employees. Well, the one former employee, but the family members of the owner of CarSource. You could tell that they were very cautious in their statements because the one guy, he's the inventory manager, allegedly doesn't know how much inventory they have, doesn't know how much inventory they lost, doesn't know how much damage they sustained, even though he had just done an interview about it a little bit before. They are very cautious because if they say the wrong thing, they're under oath, their insurance company could use that against them and they could get in real trouble real fast. Mithra Nemmer says, dear Lord Nick, streaming on Sunday when you have 11 billion hours of streaming coming up this week. Are you trying to Minecraft yourself? Seriously, though, keep up the great work. And in case you missed it earlier, because I know there's a lot more people here now than when I said it, I will be streaming again, I think at 10 p.m. tonight, interviewing Robert Grueller. He has a busy daytime schedule during the week, and he has been invited to come on to one of the shows for full coverage, and he may decide to do that sometime during the trial. I don't know, but we haven't been able to make it happen last week. So we do have this time on Sunday, and we should be able to talk about it tonight. I'll confirm it as soon as I know, but that should be tonight, 10 p.m. Central Time is the current idea. Unless he comes back and says that's not appropriate, then I'll let you guys know. Again, if you follow me on Locals, which you can do for free, or if you follow on Twitter, the announcements will be made on both of those websites. All right. Where did my... yes, Talix says, in this situation, someone screaming, shoot me, mother effer, basically in your face is provoking a fight. It is very threatening. I agree. I agree that he was. Now, he didn't do that to Kyle, and he didn't do that at the time that Kyle shot him, but he did run at him full speed, screaming F you and reach for his gun, which also is grounds for self-defense. Pappy Killjoy says, Binger says, so Rosenbaum was false lunging? Mag says, this Marine is obviously uncomfortable, sees Kyle as a hero. Could be. The Marine was not the best witness for Kyle. He may have had some resentment. I don't know. I got a weird vibe off of him, but he wasn't super helpful to the state. I consider him basically a wash. I think his testimony ended up being ultimately unimportant. Doxson's rule says, Your Honor, I move the prosecution be impeached for wearing that plaid tie, Your Honor. Beast on the Run says he went into Marine mode, his brain turned off, and body took over. That's from the blackout. The blackout was very curious. And I think if he had had any dangerous testimony, they would have spent a little more time on the blackout. Like, oh, but you couldn't remember what happened here and here and here. I think that might have been more focused, but I don't think they were all that concerned about his testimony in general. MNSISU says he must have drank too many White Claws from that other witness. That's why he blacked out. Casbina says Richard should check the FBI footage and other vids for evidence this guy did not black out, discrediting him if needed. The FBI did not provide, as far as I know, they didn't provide any footage other than like the 45-second snippet that we have. I don't know, because they haven't shown any of the FBI footage of the following shootings or anything like that, which is baffling to me. That one guy says, objection, Your Honor. The prosecutor looks and acts rat-like. This trial should be delayed until the prosecution can get someone that isn't rat-like. Justin Wright says, as an Army vet, I can tell this Marine ate a lot of crayons. Mag says, if Richards doesn't take advantage of the blackout, I'm going to scream. They did hit it a little bit, but they didn't hit it a lot. And again, I think they have some justification for not really going into it because he had some good stuff for Kyle in there. And if you overly discredit, you lose the good stuff too. Scott Valine says, prosecution witness testified that handgun had a chambered round and ready to fire with a trigger pull, imminent threat. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That some of that evidence is good for Kyle. Coltrane says, as a defense, due to your training and years in the Marine Corps, would you perceive a threat differently than a civilian with no formal training? Maybe that's not really the standard, so I don't know if they want to try and draw those distinctions too much, although it would probably be in Kyle's favor. Angry Baneling said, but this would be objection calls for speculation or calls for a legal conclusion. Angry Baneling says, Alita, please collect this super chat from Nick. Thanks. Kyle Cowden says, sounds like he was describing a momentary blackout when the gunfire started, kind of an autopilot military conditioning. Yeah, and they could have gone more into it. The prosecution probably should have, in my opinion. 200 Watt Studio says, this is a down payment on the oceanside gourmet dinner I want to take legal bites on. Alita is a goddess that whose beauty is a golden ocean sunset. 200 Watt Studio, man, you need to calm down. You need to calm down, buddy. Jeremiah, thanks for the donation. Mag says, a threat to my life. Boom. Barry Sotoro says, no, Hank is a lawyer now. Robert Picklesnickel says, so this guy's a way better lawyer than Richards, yeah? Oh, Sharfisi? Better lawyer. Maybe, I don't know. It's hard to judge a lawyer by just their in-courtroom presence because they may have some other extremely good skills. Some lawyers are great at oral argument. Some lawyers are great at direct examination. Some are great at cross-examination. Some are good at drafting. Some are good at researching. Some are good at fact recall. Some are good at closing arguments specifically. Some are good at jury selection, right? You have, oh my goodness, mine eyes. You have a whole variety of talents and aspects of lawyering that can all, not everybody's going to be good at every single thing. So that's, that's the rub. That's why you have a diverse team if you can get it. Alan Rogers says, it's the same thing as an MRE bomb. You don't need to be a chemist. You cowards are lawyers. Stay in your lane. Learn. It's not, it's never mind. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to argue with you at all. But if you think a team of lawyers don't know about it, guess what? A team of civilian jurors doesn't either. Rico says, is moving around good for keeping jury attention? Can be. Greg UW says, damn, Rekieta Law needs to diarrhea again. He also says, Nick, can you TLDR the defense's day in court so far? Are they doing well? Was just able to tune in. Friday was a very good day for the defense. They did a very good job on Friday. T-Square Innovation, in my opinion, T-Square Innovation says the difference between a 27-year-old Marine not feeling threatened versus any untrained person, let alone a 17-year-old, is huge. Probably, although he did say he was not a combat Marine, so maybe it's not so much of a difference. Maybe they need to try and clarify that. They didn't really focus on it, and I don't know that it ultimately becomes relevant. I agree with you in general, but I don't know that it ultimately was all that relevant. Steven says the infantryman on yesterday was Army. The one today was Marines. Which one was not like the other? I rest my case on U.S. Marine Corps infantrymen. Siumara says we all can see Kyle. He's only this tall after all. Mag says, I agree with legal bites. The Marine is clearly uncomfortable and doesn't want to put the kid in a guilty verdict. He seemed to look at Kyle as sorry. Mr. JUPL says a female Thirst Gang and Sigma grind set lone wolves rise up. Romer So Pervy says not just any legal briefs, binding legal briefs. The Pronato says, Nick, why do you keep saying the N-word like that spectator yelling at the Colorado's Rockies mascot? I don't even know what that's from. Let's see. Amtank says, I'd be down for law ASMR. Christopher Shaver says, Rekieta Law, Printify has boxers, briefs, and panties. Yes, believe me, I have seen it. A bunch of people sent me links. And we'll see. Did I say dinger? Binger? Okay. I don't know what's happening. You're curious what's behind me? Looks like a mixer. No, behind me is those are paints for miniatures back there. There's a microphone on a boom that I need to put away, and that is a camera lens case. And then over here is there is a little, that's my travel mic interface. Okay. Steven says Bernhard Gates beat a Binger-like prosecutor in Manhattan after shooting and killing 3 thugs on a subway in New York City. Kyle will beat this. I do think Kyle's going to win this. Oh, the nickname for the Rockies mascot is Dinger, and there was a controversy over whether people were yelling the N-word. Got it. See, since Binger was in the case, and I don't know about sports ball, that was I would have never known. VP says, ask Sheath to personalize for you. Greg UW says, Sheath Underwear sponsors many base channels like Michael Malice. They'd probably be interested to customize Sheath legal briefs. Glenn Carver says, look at that beauty, the hair, the eyes. I feel like I'm falling in love. Someone's been working out, it seems. You look dashing, Nick. Thank you. There you go. Scooter McDuder says, should have asked why Rosenbaum was saying, shoot me. Shoot me what? You can hear that they were mad at this guy for pointing his gun. Yellow Pants later accuses Kyle because of the green shirt. Heath Muchmore says, Cafe Press has underwear you can logo. Mr. Salt, thank you for the donation. Christopher Shaver says, Printify for print-on-demand boxer briefs like Teespring, but better. Vienna Waits for you says, take a drink, Nick. It's noon somewhere in the world. Sleazy says, uploaded ADA Peter Dinger to the comments on this stream on Locals. Chasington Kensworth says, why doesn't defense make every witness say the actual N-word when quoting Rosenpedo? Wouldn't it demonstrate Rosenbaum was escalating the situation? The defense can't make someone say a word. They can prevent them from saying extra words than yes or no if they ask a yes or no question, but they can't force someone to say something. And if you start getting, why don't you say the N-word right now? Why don't you do it? You do it. You say it. You're gonna look like a dick, and the judge is going to stop you. Tara Rayner says legal briefs for prostitutes. Victor Sebastian says your legal briefs will also double as Rosenbaum repellent with a word like legal on the butt. Very, very, very good. Bad Vibes says never keep your ding dongs next to your ho-hos or you will end up with a bunch of little Debbies. John Smith says, as an example, the Boston Massacre was a peaceful protest until it wasn't. The Scott 16 says, what's the difference between the feds and Antifa at peaceful protests? Simple. One's at least smart enough to get paid for starting trouble. There you go. Is that Antifa? Because sometimes they're getting paid. Sometimes there's the Antifa incentive money. Oh, we'll bust you down and give you a couple $100. AJ Cook hit me up, read that one on stream. I remember now. JK Wynn says, do you remember the judge talking about Game of Thrones in the beginning? Definitely needs to plant the pick of Binger and Littlefinger personality of deceitful to the jury. Your Honor, the closing arguments. Earlier in this trial, you brought up a show with mutual combat. That show's Game of Thrones. I want you to take judicial notice that Binger looks like Littlefinger and that guy was a liar and a prick. The Japanese Yakuza says, home from work, got me some whiskeys on the way, though. Awesome. Thug Life Nation says, probably the best that he wasn't deployed if he blacks out after the sound of gunfire. Just saying. John Mahoney says, both times Rosenbaum screamed, shoot me. Josh Zeminski had his finger on the trigger, ready to shoot, and Kelly Zeminski was filming. They were provoking. I agree. Niche 19 says, Ricada & Co. commentary makes me talk smack about lawyers like I talk smack about MMA fighters from the comfort of my couch. Robert Quick says, please turn mics, you guys, down slightly when Baldy is talking. Loud voices. We try not to say much when they're saying something important. We really do. But it's Streamlabs lowers, not only is he 10 miles from the mic, but StreamYard, I should say, actually does, I believe, automatically lower the background volume when anyone speaks, which is why just turning us down isn't always going to fix the problem, because it does this as a compensation. So we try not to speak over it, but and again, I don't have a live monitor or a live audio producer to manage that, so it's going to be the best that we can do. Mike Brogan, thank you for the donation. David Bowser says, Nick loves the Goo Goo Dolls and Cosmopolitans. Hey, Iris is a good song. Just going to say. Was that the Goo Goo Dolls? Iris? Selrin says, with how much Binger is running down the clock, this feels more like an NFL game than a court case. JH says, what's your opinion on prison reform and ways to reduce recidivism? Bullets. Just kidding. Just kidding. This is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think a large majority of nonviolent crime probably just doesn't need as much prison. And I think one of the biggest prison reforms we can do is, frankly, reducing marijuana convictions in general, and some of the petty drug convictions for possession, more than dealers, right? But nonviolent drug crime, I'm torn, because some of those people need to go somewhere, but I don't know that prison is the best place, and it tends to end up creating worse monsters in a lot of instances. So it's tough. There's not an easy way to do it, but I think we get overly punitive on prison, and the reason that we do is because every politician looks good saying they're tough on crime, when on some things we really need to not be. Like prostitution, for example, probably just really shouldn't be a crime anymore. Can you imagine some John pays some poor sap, pays some chick to have sex and then goes to prison and then ends up, ends up murdering someone later. Just, I don't know. It's weird, but it's a tough question. We got We're sending a lot of people to prison, keeping them in there, and then expecting them to be well-adjusted when they come out. We could send drug dealers overseas to be prostitutes. Excellent. I'm all for it. Also, containing illegal immigrants in our prisons, probably a bad call. Ship them back. Go. Let's see. Really, really big man, short bus Dave says Kyle rolled back natty 20s on this judge. Oh, rolled back-to-back natty 20s on this judge. Yes, he did. It was it's an amazing pull. He was rolling with disadvantage too. Ryan Kalipi says, came for the trial, stayed for the Richards impersonations. Brother Tough Love, thank you for the donation. Slade Joseph Wilson says, Lex Luthor is doing a great job. Yeah, Sharfisi did phenomenal on Friday. He did great. Pinking 554 says, this judge is not taking any BS. I hate Yankees says Schrader voice. Schrader voice. Mr. Binger, I need you to hold this L. I can't do old man voice. I can't do it. You have to age into that level of disdain. One more thing on the prison reform. You get a bunch of bogus charges that end up, and I mean legitimately bogus charges that end up getting pled out because the pleading to the bogus charge ends up being a lower risk proposition than taking it to trial and losing. And a lot of people are at a severe disadvantage for trial. So you'll get people who are going into a prison for 1 to 4 years on some criminal act that may be completely bogus or fictitious, but the prospect is that they would go in for 15 to 20 if they take it to trial. And forced plea deals are a big problem in our system, or coerced, I should say, where they tack on a bunch of charges as threats, and people will plead guilty to crimes that they otherwise would not be guilty of. And I don't know how you solve that, but I've actually experienced it. So, there's that one. Mag says, does the jury notice the demeanor of Binger, him being pissed? Will that affect their thinking? Probably. That guy says, could the defense not be objecting knowing the judge would say, lol, no, being based old judge? No, the judge has largely been on the side of the defense in most objections and most of the rulings he's made. I think objections are very safe for the defense on anything that is even that is in their favor, even a little bit. I think they should be taking advantage of it. Zero says rotund. I'm thinking the other prosecutor must have just stepped up to the stand at this point. I think I missed this one yesterday. Andrew Bin says, didn't know Lodgin Boo worked for the state. That's good. Not applicable says this swamp monster needs her DNA analyzed for mistakes. Oh my God. John Robert, thank you for the donation. Layman Russ says, I really hope the prosecutors flub and fumble on purpose so Kyle can go free. Skullguard Thane says, attorney Widebody and this chick look like a match made in the Golden Corral. Oh no. John Robert says, get in my belly. That's what he said to the army dude. Logical, plausible, probable says, he's going to argue they found no DNA from Rosenbaum or Huber on the gun, therefore they never touched it, therefore he has no right to self-defense. That's what they did try to do. That is what they tried to do, and they got demolished. They got destroyed on that by that terrible, terrible testimony from the DNA expert and excellent lawyering from the defense. Speed Racer 5 says, open up your gamer juice and take swig, gamers. I'm about to say some sweet gamer words. Shoot me. John Roberts says, if he is a convicted sex offender, then his DNA should have been collected. Is that the law in Wisconsin? I'm not sure, but he was a convicted sex offender down in Arizona, I believe. I do believe he was in Arizona for that. Alex H says the high altitude video is about as reliable as eyewitness testimony. The main thing with the high altitude video is how any of these people can attest with personal knowledge that whoever they say is on there is in fact the people. The state is actually really lucky that they don't have to prove that Kyle pointed a gun and pulled a trigger at someone. They're lucky that they don't have to do that, because if they did that and all they had was the FBI video, they would lose. 3 Gun Lose says, would the firing of the rifle compromise the DNA if the pedo touched it or others in the later shootings? I don't know. Not an expert on that, but as we saw, it didn't matter. Gravedigger 27 says, bet they wasted more taxpayer dollars on this worthless DNA analysis than I did on this super chat. Oh yeah, they definitely did. And that was, yes, me being critical of your super chat. I'm just kidding. JWC7215 says the lab has concluded that Kyle held his own gun. The funny thing was the lab could not conclude, if you didn't see the testimony or you don't remember, the most important part was for the first 2 spots that they swabbed, they could conclude that Kyle Rittenhouse and one other person that they could not that they were pretty sure was not Rosenbaum and not what's his face, Huber. There were very low chances of it being Rosenbaum or Huber. They could show that on the first 2, but the next 3 spots on the gun all had inconclusive results, to the point where the DNA lab could not, with confidence, say that Huber or Rosenbaum's DNA was not present. They couldn't tell. And that is amazing. That is absolutely amazing that they could not tell on that issue. I need to change something real quick. Don't you do it, you stupid thing. There we go. All right. So that was just phenomenal. Collector's Digest says it was stated he went for the barrel, not grabbed for the barrel. Fortunately, Kyle, aka Quick Draw McGraw, blasted his ass before he could connect. Oh, the other excellent part of defense work on that, on the cross exam of the DNA expert, was they didn't swab the barrel. They swabbed the barrel guard, which I assume means the barrel shroud, but that might also mean the place where Kyle is holding the gun. The funny thing is they didn't have anybody who could testify to where on the gun these locations were. Terrible witness. Terrible. I just get a bag with a label. She says, I just get a sample with a label on it. Like, so you didn't ask for a barrel sample. They didn't give you a sample from this. You don't know exactly where this is from. She was a disaster as an expert witness, an absolute disaster. And so the handguard equals the barrel shroud. And what I want to point out with that is the jury doesn't know. The lawyers may or may not know. Binger didn't seem to know. So what is she testifying to? Again, and leaving it makes it, we don't even know where that is. You don't actually want the answers. You just want to find out that they don't know the answers. Swinging Cod says, Nick, check your Twitter. Quote tweeted you something. Looks like Binger is wearing a Resistance pin from the sequel trilogy in court right now. It's definitely the Rebel pin or whatever. But I don't know if it's from the trilogy. But yeah, I wouldn't surprise me. So he's saying resist. Jimmy says, did she just assume that DNA's gender? Greg UW says, defense. You've discussed the DNA on the gun for Rosenbaum. Can you tell us what the previous DNA match for Mr. Rosenbaum is in the database? Other than the fact that he was any of that would have been pretty funny. Would have been funny. Grimm's Bar says, Ricada Law DNA lady said more like that it is of Kyle and an unknown greater than 2 unknown. She didn't say 2 known individuals. I didn't think she said 2 known. But I don't remember what I said on the stream. Romer So Pervy says, what's her deal with quadrillion? She's never going to get quads with her soy-based diet. Andrew Knapp read that one. Man with them 9 says, I have a 2-person mixture for her. Stop. The Gentleman Sausage says, Nothing she's saying proves anything because it's dependent on software, and all software is bad, and Uncle Ted was right about industrial society. The software also just didn't support the case. That's the real problem. Molon Labe says 1371 says double check the Huber shooting to see if he had gloves. He did, but he did not, but still photo shows he grabbed the rifle. Yep. And Du Elmo says Kyle wore blue gloves. Yep. So Kyle's DNA was still on there, even though he was wearing gloves. It doesn't. It's not a perfect preventer there. Everybody going to commit a crime with a gun, take note. Tara Rayner says, okay, I had a feeling I recognize Binger. He reminds me of a McCabe, Strzok, creepy love child. More and more feeling the case needs dismissed. Silent Vash 27 says they wore masks for COVID. Safe to assume they use sanitizer. Yeah, very possible. Very possible. Eric the Red says, stop getting, from Binger, stop getting butter on my monitor. Not, is he saying that to the big guy? Joel Reese, yes, I'll get to it eventually. The Streamlabs thing. Not applicable says she's just telling the truth. Good for her. Yes. No, I mean, she testified truthfully. It just was bad for the state. DCV Titan says, objection. Prosecution is asking our questions. Restless Medic says undercover defense lawyer. Let's see. Greg UW says rank order of best lawyers for Kyle in order. Judge Based, Fatty Sandwich Man, Mr. Roshi, Richards, the other lawyer. Right now, I'm still on the judge. Judge being the best lawyer. Then I think I go with Mr. Roshi, who is Sharfisi, I think. And then Fatty Sandwich Man did a great job for Kyle on Friday. Richards, and then Binger. Although Binger had some bombs on Friday. 2% Right says DNA witness was solely used to use up time to push testimony of Grosskreutz to Monday morning. Rico says Binger on Sudoku watch, get his belt and shoelaces. That guy says I'd like to move to dismiss this case. Binger. Scott Shook says I haven't seen a beating like this since Rodney King. Dude, it was really, really bad. It was really bad for the state on Friday. Just can't go with it. All right, I'll turn on sub-only mode chat because some people can't stop spamming, which will make I have to point out, this makes my job much more difficult. Very rude. Very rude for them to do that. Motherfucker. I hate how YouTube manages that. Colin Archer says, what the something in Russian is going on at this trial? This is a damn roller coaster. First defense is asleep. Now prosecution is shooting itself in the foot. WFT. Correct. I have no idea. Oh, and one more thing I'm going to mention right now is on Monday, I'm probably going to turn on slow mode, which I don't normally do, but I have a feeling we're going to have a very, very big show on Monday with a lot of people. So, and the chat is getting really difficult to follow for me and for other people. So just be warned, I don't normally do slow mode on chats, but I think we might push into the 15,000 people range on Monday. And so I really want to make sure that, that people have the opportunity to see what's going on in the chat a little bit. Joe Parton says prosecutors trying to show DNA on the gun. It's not Rosenbaum. Again, it just completely failed on him. Brian Alleman says, I have died of a cringe overdose. Remember me, lads. Barry Soitoro says Binger nosebleed in 3, 2, 1. Molenlabe says, ask her to define male on cross. that would be funny. When you say male DNA, what do you mean by that? The patriarchy. No, I'm not drinking today. Sorry. I can't do it. One, Friday was just a disaster, and my poor liver sent me an email. And 2, I have to drive right after the show. So I just can't. And the shots are going to be modified on Monday too. We're not doing every 500. I will actually die. So, Selrin says, as of the DNA lady, seemed like this case is Binger and Richards versus Chonky Man, Schrader, and Sharifisi. First case I've seen where co-counsel sits on opposite sides of the course. Yeah, when one of my favorite moments from Friday was when the judge blew out the Chonky prosecutor, and the prosecutor looked at the judge like he was an unbuttered roll, and he had a whole tub of country crock. He was like, I'm gonna slather this shit all over you. I'm gonna devour you, piece of garbage. By the way, I got some beef real quick. You guys ever been to a Luby's? You been to a Luby's cafeteria? You go through, you're all excited. I went to Luby's as a kid all the time. You're all excited. You're like, yes, I'm gonna get that Luann platter. We're gonna get some fucking corn. We're gonna get mashed potatoes with gravy on it and some fried chicken. And I'm gonna get one of those Clover rolls. Oh yeah, I'm so excited. I'm sitting there bouncing with my tray. Can't wait to get it on the thing. And you get down there and you go and you're like, yes, I got this roll. And you're like, what the hell is this? This is a dry roll. And they got the little butter pellets or whatever, and they cost 25 cents. And you look up to your dad and you're like, hey dad, can I get butter for my dinner roll? And you go, oh, I'm not paying you 25 cents for butter. Luby's, that trauma's on you. That butter should have been free. That should have been free. Anyway, sorry. Look, I had a rough childhood growing up. We got to get some of these things off our chest, and you guys are my therapist. Blake Pritchard says video has emerged of George Floyd's nephew. I knew this was going to come up. Admitting to photographing Rittenhouse jurors. Well, he admitted that somebody in court photographed Rittenhouse jurors. Plans intimidation lest they convict. Kyle's defense team is in possession of the video. Yeah, and I think they're going to probably bring it up to the judge and maybe talk about it, but I don't think they're going to get any action on it at this point in time. Jeremiah Loper says the detectives should be ashamed of themselves. Yes. Peter says Binger wants the case let off. He's opening the door to character on purpose. It's literally the only thing that makes any sense. Again, bad facts. It's a case that shouldn't have been brought in. I don't think Binger wants to let Kyle go. Maybe God is intervening and making him an idiot for the trial or something weird. Dex Terminax says, at this point, every time the prosecution gets ready to enter the courtroom, they need a monitor above the door with the announcer from Smash TV telling him, good luck, you'll need it. Dragon's Treasure says the aunt and the prosecutor are going to pork after this. You're welcome for the image. Disgusting. Mandalore Wise, it's the only reason I see to call this witness is to get, he'd never use a skateboard as a club. Well, they were trying to get the character witness in. They just were hoping that the defense either wouldn't object or that the judge would overrule because they had the motion in limine on the prior bad acts. They thought that motion on the prior bad acts was going to insulate them from it. But when the judge indicated basically, yeah, no, if you do this, if you do it, they certainly get to counter it. And then they're like, yeah, we're going to back off. We really don't want him to read to the jury. And this is the defense's mistake. Actually. They should not have objected. He should have allowed her to answer that he was a hero who ran towards danger in front of the jury. And then they should have said, Your Honor, can we talk without the jury on this one, Your Honor? Because we need to maybe introduce some character evidence here. The defense, that is a mistake that they made, was not letting her answer. They could have even objected after she answered and then tried to sneak it in. Jason Simidrew says, Richards to witness, to your knowledge, has Anthony ever tried to separate someone's head from their shoulders with a skateboard? Does he have experience with that? Manny Fabani says, sounds like he took Skate or Die a little too seriously. Draza says, did the prosecutor forget that we have video footage of his clown swinging the skateboard at Kyle's head? What are we doing right now? Now, he wants the jury to forget that. He wants the jury to forget that. Matt, the prosecution already knows that they have that evidence because they had a motion. The prosecution moved to exclude that evidence from the trial, and they basically won on the motion unless they were to open the door, and they should have won on that motion. I think they have really come close to opening the door, and if the fact that they haven't yet is a little surprising. But the defense hasn't gone too hard on it. When they tried, they allowed the prosecution to withdraw. And there's a reason. It's a strategic choice, maybe. Might not be incompetence. It might be a strategy to say, look, if we go too hard trying to paint this guy as a bad guy through his past, the jury isn't going to be as willing to believe it. And so maybe they're thinking, we just want to keep all positive mentions of the deceased out of this from the state side and let it be a blank canvas for the jury. I don't know. That's a strategic choice they could make. I'm not saying it's a good one. I don't agree with it, but that might be. Ray Fernandez says, the great aunt looks like John Goodman with a wig. She actually did, like in a non-insultive way. She actually did look that way. Speed Razor 5 says, Mrs. Cat Lady, how close were you to Mr. Huber? Is it safe to say you were Chris Chan close? Ooh. When is Chris Chan's trial? Does anybody in here know? If you're not familiar with Chris Chan, ignore it. But when is that trial? Is it this month or is it next month? Or is it January? Wolfgang Deo says, how is Admiral Levine involved with Kyle's case? Stop. North Sea Hero says, he knew Jacob, the rapist. Objection, Your Honor. This character assassination of Anthony Huber. Christopher Nicholson says, so Rachel Levine was Huber's grand aunt. Small world. Bill Potter says, goal is to make jury connect with Huber and ignore that he could have been a threat. Yes, it was. November 15th. Oh, I got to see if there's going to be cameras in that courtroom. We got to find a feed. We've got to find a feed of that. Billy Witch Doctor says, lunch is Subway right? Do you think it will be the U-gouge or the regular cut? It'll always be the regular cut because Subway is awful now. Should have never changed. U-gouge all day. Larry Bernard says, was he a hero? Did he run into violent situations to commit crimes? Wait, has the prosecutor not been in trial before? So now the arson, burglary, and molesting are all on point for defense. Lol. Mag says, prosecution should not be pissing this judge off this much. Wow. Scott says, is the DA trying to piss off the judge to the point where he has to rescue himself and they can get someone who's more favorable to their, or recuse himself, get someone who's more favorable to their angle? Maybe, but I don't know. Not applicable says that question turns her into character witness 2. Russ Man says, this is the best show on TV. The kid shouldn't even be on trial. The video speaks for itself. Renal Ryan says, did I hear Alita say something about Mr. Bites? My whole reason for being here is gone. Yes, Alita is married. So Renal Ryan, 200 Watt Studio. Anybody else in the Simp Squad needs to calm down. Take a drink of water. You're a little thirsty. Not applicable says character evidence. Maverick 619 says, at this point, it's just 2 defense teams competing on who can make him more not guilty. Larry Bernard says, I hope this prosecutor gets charges filed with the bar for his conduct in this case. I would be embarrassed to be prosecuting the case. Wolfgang Deo says, just because it's not in a dictionary does not mean it's not a word. Language is formed via morphemes. And so rebuttative is a word. I don't know why they were like, no, it's not a word, Your Honor. Just be like, it's your courtroom, Your Honor. If you want it to be a word, it's a word now. Like, make a little joke with it. Make a little joke with it. I don't know, Your Honor. You want to gavel it into existence? That's fine by me. We all know what you're talking about. Mean Sarton says that the defense has been allowed to do with our witnesses. Let's see. Private A says they're trying to humanize the guy. Could they just be trying to make Kyle feel guilty to dirty Kyle's image? They wanted to humanize the guy to make him look like a hero. I mean, that was the goal. And then when they tried that, though, that they would be able to bring up his past. So they withdrew it. Scott R says, you're saying he relentlessly pursued the defendant, trying to bludgeon him with a skateboard until he was shot. The president-elect Austin M says, prosecutor Nuke Gage saving Huber. Both were charging. Church of Nothing says, made a little Binger meme and tagged you on Twitter. Not applicable says, judge helped prosecution by stopping the character question. He did. I fully agree that he did. And it's potentially the right decision by the judge. I think the defense made the big fumble there. And again, I don't know that it was a mistake. It might have been strategic or tactical, however you want to word it. But I would have done it different. I would have gone after his character. I would be when anyone related to Huber or Rosenbaum are up on the stand, I just, please say the word like fucking Roger Rabbit. Please say it. Say character. Say good boy. Say anything, because I've got a rap sheet of rape to drop on the jury. Please, 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 just say it. Just say it. He's got a knife to his brother's throat. Just say it, because he's not cleaning the house. That would be me. Just waiting. They have a different approach. Rumpy Depew says, I'm so excited. I won Anthony's skateboard from an eBay auction and FedEx just delivered it. I think the holes in it are for aerodynamics. Francis Chartrand says, judge is doing a better job of trialing the case than the defense and the prosecution. This judge is really great. Really great. Butterbiscuit92 says, I've watched every minute of your coverage until today. I stayed up until 4 playing games, lol. Thanks for keeping me entertained while I DoorDash. Hey, thanks. Don't watch too closely and drive. Mostly listen. President-elect Austin M says, prosecution ruined a possible good Gage-saving humor narrative. Both were aggressing. Also, the Gage point of view was in the collab earlier. Does that admit it? They've already... they're probably waiting to admit Gage's video until Gage can testify about it. That's my my thoughts on it. So they're probably going to admit it on Monday. They're going to have Gage there. He'll lay the foundation. What were you doing? Tell us about your video. What were you thinking at this time? Tell us how you were saving disabled kids by drawing rainbows on the side of the street and giving them candy and taking them into your van. No, Gage, stop talking. Oh my God. That's what they're going to probably do with Gage's video. It'll probably be admitted on Monday, and then defense will get to cross-examine Gage about it. Now, what they didn't want was they didn't want the defense to cross-examine someone else about Gage's video, because then they might not get the answers that they want. Cogboy, there's no way Judge Schrader would come on here to talk about the trial. That would probably violate the judge's ethics. Someone with a bunch of Russian letters for a name says, what's the standard for reckless and reckless endangerment? It's without regard for human life. That's the standard. I've only heard that the jury decides that. They determine whether the action was made without any regard for human life. If so, does it mean judge cannot make a decision about that in a JMOL/JNOV? No, a judge can determine that as a matter of law. No reasonable jury could conclude that this was an action that was reckless. They can actually make that in a motion for, or in a directed verdict ruling or a JNOV. Andy Mazika says, sorry, you have to deal with legal bites. Exactly. Then they say, kidding, your coverage has been great so far. Sean Wilson says it's entirely possible. Prosecution is trying to evoke conflict with the judge to illustrate some bias from mistrial as a last resort. Yeah, but a mistrial in this case does not favor the prosecution. I think if they have a mistrial, I don't think they bring charges back against Kyle Rittenhouse. Personally, that's my thought. Tara Rayner says, what's this about that kind of Canadian? I'm not that kind of Canadian. Oh, and to rebut the first aggressor, she would have had to be present. How Huber was 5 minutes or 10 seconds before is irrelevant. I agree. Mandy Karavicka says, why are the liberal news liars calling Kyle the Kenosha shooter? Well, technically, he was a shooter in Kenosha, so they'll rest on that as a fair label. Even though, shouldn't the Kenosha shooter be Zeminski? Kill for Cash says the whole time the DNA expert was talking, was yelling, ask if they swabbed the whole gun. Much love from a frustrated Kyle is even on trial Wisconsinite. Yep. Yes. And they did get there. They did get there. Well, they didn't ask if they basically said, so they didn't swab the whole gun. So it's good times. And they did well there. Seed Fan says, could the lead prosecutor realize it's a case of self-defense and be holding a sham prosecution to satiate the citizens' lust for retribution? Again, it's a theory I've seen bandied about a lot. I really don't think so. And we'll know on Monday. I just think the facts are so bad for the state. Wolfgang Deo says they brought DNA in because whenever a crime occurs, the perpetrator beats off for forensics to catch them. Every case is like this. It's kind of true. It's kind of true. I think, part of the reason they brought the DNA expert in is they thought the defense would just sleep on what was going on. And they thought a DNA, DNA sounds very sophisticated for a jury. So we've got DNA evidence that it wasn't them. Kyle's hands on the gun. Well, we know he was on the gun. Fatal System Error says, I feel like the defense does better when Alita is on your show. Monkey Gamer Z Official says, good boy that commits domestic violence against his siblings. Wolfgang Deo says, legal bites, balls, one ball, no balls on Fuda. You could go to, come on, Wolfgang. Johnny GTO says, Claw is the law. Account name says, what's this guy's problem with White Claw? They're delicious. You can like them all day. Licky Tasty says, listen, I'm a beer guy, but White Claw's watered down is basically just water that gets you drunk. No hangover either. There you go. Wolfgang Deo says, Natty Ice GameCube bag full of. Let's see. Peter says, Nick, make her drink all the like drinks, all of them. She'd be dead too. We can't do that. Trapper 99998 says, Aussie lawyer here. This is fascinating. Hey, welcome. Thank you. Zyxoff Foj says, Zixo Fudge. I don't know. Says there's a real possibility the 17 at the time year old Kyle was old enough to legally have a rifle to lethally defend himself against rioters, but not old enough to carry White Claw to calm them down. I loved that chat. Oh yeah, I did read that. On Friday, but yes, that was good. Gardy Lou Gubbins says, Nick, whiskey recommendations under $50 for us poor, please. I got you. Rittenhouse Rye. Rittenhouse Rye. You could probably get 2 bottles for $50 in a lot of states, depending on your excise tax on alcohol. Rittenhouse Rye. It's thematic. It's also just a good, solid rye whiskey. Go find it. They've been around forever, and you'll enjoy it. It's also I think it's 100 proof too. It's a good one. If I get a chance to go to the liquor store today, I'm going to pick some up. Malachi Gaming and Talk says, in the spirit of Sinatra, get that ratio up, chat. Andy Mazaika says, legal bites his husband nose, puts your noses to shame. Wow. No. Arcade Outpost says, the big guy is Philip Seymour Hoffman. Woohoo. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Tarek Frost says barrel guard and barrel shroud are interchangeable terms in firearm terminology. And again, the interesting thing about it is the defense doesn't, or the witnesses don't know that. And one more way to help discredit the DNA expert would be to ask. So what's the barrel guard? Is that, that's the barrel shroud. That's not part of the barrel. They could, if they feel that they could get her on that that can discredit her a little more. I don't think they needed to. I think the DNA witness is so bad for them. Doxson's Rule says, could the defense have asked, did you receive DNA samples from the skateboard in order to get in that the girlfriend refused to hand over the skateboard? They could have. I don't know if it would have helped him all that much. Stephen Frost says, what are the odds we can get what Kyle did to be called the Kenosha hat trick? Low. I think Gage Grosskreutz would have to be dead for that to actually be a proper Kenosha hat trick, personally. The Idrisil Institute says 10% off the Subway meal to the big guy. Wolfgang Deo says courtroom is late and gay. Let's go, Brandon FJB. Pure Calumny says, even with heroic Hubert, why does his state of mind affect Kyle's self-defense claim? Fatboy tried active shooter provoked him, but without that, it doesn't. It has no legal relevance, but it has jury relevance. Oh, he was just trying to help. Because remember, the self-defense claim involves him being an aggressor. Well, he's not necessarily an aggressor if he's trying to do the right thing and stop an active shooter. Technically, though, Kyle's state of mind on whether Kyle is the aggressor is the actual relevant state of mind here. Blake Pritchard says, at what point does judge dismiss all charges based on gross incompetence of prosecution? Defense has to ask for it after the prosecution's case in chief, but it is a possibility. Crowbo Nabitha says, never got around to opening up the Four Roses last night because I got really tired. Going to do it here for this one, though. Just chilling today. Jay Clay says, Elizabeth Warren finds the DNA evidence compelling. Monkey Man 04 says, I can see it now. How dare Kyle laugh at a joke? Dapper Wolf says, Nick, check out the Julius Jones case. Actual Justice Warrior is covering it. Awareness of this case needs to be spread. Yeah, and I heard someone about it yesterday who thinks that Julius Jones is very guilty, and I don't know anything about it. So your mom's box says judge sounds like Guy Smiley. Andrew Mueller says clean or die, Graham. Blake Pritchard says clean your room or I'll stab you. Clearly reading too deep into Jordan Peterson's advice. Well, you need to you need to get up in the morning. You need to clean your room, and then you need to take a butcher's knife and go up to your brother and say, clean your room or you can fuck around and find out. Spook Horse says, well, doesn't Huber sound like a pleasant guy to be around? Truly a joy. Gigantor068, thanks for the donation. Artyom Dragstov says, I've always thought those Law and Order shows were boring, but this right here is quality content. Gigantor says, prosecutor needs to find the judge's phylactery. CDB says, before now, Stickman was my favorite judge ever. I can no longer make this distinction. This judge is awesome. It's a small girl says, also the fire they're trying to say Mr. Huber tried to save people from is the same fire. Is that the same fire when he threatened to burn his family home down? That would have been the question. Is that the same fire that he tried to burn the family home down with? Is that the one that he was charged with arson for? President-elect Austin M. thinks Gage will almost certainly open the Huber character door tomorrow. Very possible. Very possible. Adam Riley. No, wait. Rico says, Kyle's like, and they're charging me? Adam Riley says, Judge Dredd, but all judges are based off our main man here before every judgment. I once judged a case. He has a story for everything. Everything. 200 Watt Studio says, I would like to take a law class with this judge. Yeah. He's phenomenal. Atarka71 says, how would you say the defense is doing today? I say pretty good. I say pretty good too. I'd say they end up phenomenal. James Martin says, he was a skater boy. Kyle said, see you later, boy. Oh my gosh. Skeet Neat says, don't let those two cosmic ham beasts get closer. Gravity will collapse on itself. Ah! DZV Titan says, ooh, this is going to be good. Brandon Let's Go says, cheers, better than court TV. Thank you. Zabumafu says, would you consider bringing Josh on if you do end up covering the Chris Chan trial live? Of course, 100%. Love it when you guys stream together. The hard part about covering Chris Chan will be, is there a feed? Is there a live feed of the court? If there is, yes, I would love to cover it. If there's not, it's going to be quite a bit tougher. Caucasity says, Shalom, Nick, new to the channel. Are you a fellow Jewish YouTuber? I am not actually Jewish. This is all Poland right here. President-elect Austin M says, next trial is Binger versus State because of cholesterol. Gardy Lou Govin says, is Binger letting this guy take these witnesses so the terrible testimony can't be blamed on him? I think they just divvied up roles. Binger's going to take Gage Grosskreutz Monday, so he let the big boy do Friday. Likely story. Go back to school. Poland had a lot of Jews. I'm not convinced. Yeah, I know. But I don't have any. I don't have any confirmation that I am. So, raised Catholic. Malik Foxon says, based on the chat, I'm in for some laughs. Watching 7 or 8 hours behind. We'll catch up to y'all in the future later on. Lancelot says, holy hell, Binger looks like he's going to kill the man. Dude, Binger was looking rough at the end of the. He was looking worse than I did. And I drank half a bottle of scotch. Really, really big man, Short Bus Dave says they're trying to make it look like Kyle was trying to kill a mentally disabled man. Stephen Cooper says, judging by Binger's face, he might eat the DA to stop this. Siumara says, what did you and the deceased spend your time doing? Oh, he liked to beat me, so I had a protective order on him, lol. Oh, no. GG Evan 317 says, that's the face of a man who lost all hope of a future political career. Also, Your Honor, witness cross state lines to bone a map. Spook Horse says, is the prosecution deliberately trying to lose? Low Pro says, I got to say, putting on a fat suit and pretending to be a prosecutor is one of the best disguises Robert Barnes has ever conceived. He's definitely helping Kyle. Very creative. Tradeo says, so we just heard Sword and Scale has a crinkle bottom fetish. Wait. Oh, yeah, because he said put on the diaper. I was like, what are you talking about? Mega Lone Wolf says, have to run, but defense better not blow this case on cross. I think the defense did okay on the cross. This is during Rosenbaum's girlfriend. They could have gone a lot harder on Rosenbaum, but they didn't. Visidius says, so Gage Grosskreutz arrested a second DWI on 10/6/20, but wasn't charged until 4 months after the fact. Have you heard anything about this lately? I have not heard anything about it other than I am not aware of any felony conviction for Gage Grosskreutz at this present moment. I know he's got felony charges in his past or accusations of some sort, but I don't think he's ever been actually convicted. And if you don't have a conviction, it's really hard to bring in a prior bad act. Let's see. Heather's son says, are they indicating he didn't have his meds and that speaks to his psychosis and aggression, suggesting Rittenhouse attacking someone with mental health issues? I don't think so. I think him having bipolar and having that come out is bad for the prosecution. I don't think they really wanted any evidence. They tried to keep the evidence of his meds out. The prosecution objected when they tried to ask questions about the evidence of his meds, saying she's not an expert on this. She doesn't know what the meds are for. It's like, Your Honor, we get to ask what she thinks, what if she's heard what they're for. They didn't want that in there because if he's bipolar or if he's just a maniac or psychotic, then him running at Rittenhouse, it's not Rittenhouse's duty to police someone's psychosis. That makes him sound more dangerous. So that's defense wants that in. Siberius says, I'm 6'2", 155 pounds. Yeah, I was in college too. Bill Potter says, unless they can prove Kyle knew the bag didn't contain anything that could be a threat, what does it matter that someone else saw in it? Nothing legally, but the jury, right? Even then, the chase and lunge for the gun makes it pointless. I agree. Eric the Red says, question for Rosenbaum girlfriend. So you date small men. Would you date Attorney Tom? Her Excellency says, prosecution can't even remember the victim's name, but yeah, they care. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Green-haired anti-liberal says, started late, so a bit behind, but earlier someone said I could have joined the Marines, but ASVAB too high. Still, Army always has an excuse. Huh? My ASVAB was 93 out of 99. I'm a former Marine. Nice. Nice try, Army. Tall Skinny Geek says, I finished moving my Forsythia. Thank you for streaming literally 200 hours this week. I think it was only 45 by Friday. Scott R says, gladly pay you Tuesday for your testimony today. No, it had to be more than 45, didn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it was more than 45. It had to be over 50. Or no, around 50. It was around 50 by Friday. Now we're past it, of course. Lagging says, I demand a recreation of what Richards... Or wait, no. Thomas Coker says, there is a lady present, Nick. That's true. Lagging says, I demand a recreation of what Richard said to attorney at large, presumably about enjoying cheeseburgers and wanting some later or something. I think I did say what my opinion of what he was informing him was about at that point. TZ1052 NY says, a psych hold is generally for harming himself or others. Details are important if he was on hold to harm others. He was on hold for himself. Last I checked, he was in the mental hospital, the mental wing of a regular hospital, whatever it was, for suicide prevention. Scott R says, in the prosecution's defense, he can't think on an empty fourth stomach. Robert Dolvik Sivertsen from like Norway says, turn it up. Great stream. Jacob Laffoon says Binger is going to need antidepressants after this trial. Lol. Gerald Armstrong says, so we got Iron Man as the prosecutor and Jeff Bezos as the defense. AJ Cook says Seroquel is a effing antipsychotic. And then TZ says Seroquel is an antipsychotic. The problem is, if the lady doesn't know that he's taking it for antipsychotics, she can't testify to what it's for. She's not an expert in pharmacology or whatever, so she's not going to be able to testify. BG says, when the volume is low, we crank our own volume up so we can hear. This makes you extremely loud. Turn yourselves down to match the court volume level. And again, it sounds really easy and wonderful. It's not, though. Tara Rayner says gabapentin is for seizures and neuropathic pain. Possible side effects are delusions, dementia, lack, or loss of strength. Jay Leon is watching from the UK. Thank you, Nick, for streaming this. Very much appreciated. Your commentary has been very insightful. Here's to you, mate. Cheers. Nightmare Zero says, quick question, Nick. Do lawyers typically charge a tenth of an hour for every phone call and single email? Yes. I'm trying to make sure I'm not getting shammed by this estate lawyer. Yes, it's very, very common in a lot of practice. Now, not everybody does that, but that is definitely a typical industry thing. So plan them well, and use them sparingly. Christopher Shaver says Michelin Man is secretly gunning for Binger's job by throwing the case. Azrael the Fallen says, is this other stream with CC back up? I think we went back to it on the break. Another monotream says, trying to figure out who is trying harder to lose. Craig McDivitt says, quit lying. You put the volume low because you like the sound of your own voice. Yes, except I can't hear me. I don't have a monitor on. So I'm not listening to myself. Maybe I should. Then I could have a conversation with me. BG Willia 21207 says, I take gabapentin for diabetic neuropathy, and this is the first I've heard about bipolar. So I checked, and yes, it does. Guess it depends on the dose. It does make you a bit drowsy when first taken. And as I said, I know people who either take or have taken gabapentin for restless leg syndrome, for example. Zero Cyber says, how much did the defense pay to get this saboteur into the prosecution? M. Sheba says, I didn't know Viva would be here. Sometimes. And he may be coming back more this week as he has time. President-elect Austin M. says, didn't go further on meds because 2 pharmacists in jury. Oh, is that real? Are there 2 pharmacists in the jury? Oh, that could be terrible for them. Does anybody know, like, does someone have a list of the professions of the jurors? Sometimes they release that. If there are 2 pharmacists in the jurors, oh, then that testimony was way, way better. I haven't heard that. Boys Mommy Tube says Seroquel is not a sleep medication, but an antipsychotic. Gabapentin is a neurological medication used for nerve pain, not a psychic med. Meshikari Ruse says, I think the goal of the girlfriend being questioned was to try and make Rosenbaum look good, but instead now the jury knows he had issues, which is adverse to the state. Yep. Again, I would have pushed to get his to get the at least the restraining order in for the pending. I think it's a pending domestic violence charge. Get that no contact order in, and then push to see if you can get the pedo shit in. Because once a jury knows that he iced a pedo, I think it makes him 50 times more likely to walk. Fed Adams says he had the Gucci loafers. Brian says Nick is going to start crying. Chat, stop. Here for Lol says, in Elsa's sister's voice, would like to raise the volume. Would you like to please the chat? Would you like to stop being late, being gay, or an update on Vic? Japanese Yakuza says the volume needs to be prosecuted and sentenced about 100 plus years. Catherine Smith says shots for every microphone complaint. Now, again, you guys just apparently want me dead. You want me dead. And I just don't know if I can deal with this. Death threats. Seinfeld says, don't let this distract you from the fact that Hector is going to be running 3 Honda Civics with spoon engines. And on top of that, he just went to Harry's and bought 3 T66 turbos with nitrous. And what the fuck are we doing? And a Motec exhaust system. What are you talking about? Is this like a reference to Fast and the Furious or something? What the hell? Oh, wait. Funky Brass Monkey. I only briefly addressed the George Floyd nephew. We'll see what happens with it. It'll be interesting for sure. Oh wait, where was I? Tito Ortiz, these nuts says simulcasting this and Good Logic stream between Biden's draconian mandates. Get ready, small businesses, and FBI chicanery. These are fun distractions. STFUFFS says the amount of comedy that comes from Nick melting down every time someone mentions volume is worth every damn cent of this super chat. Lamau. D says, Ricada, you have a high impedance microphone / headphones. Swap to some low impedance headphones like Bytes is wearing, and your feed will clean up the audio. StreamYard is pushing audio through your computer amp. I don't know what my headphones would have anything to do with the mic. CD Hinak, thank you for the donation. Brandon Let's Go says this is Mystery Science Theater 3000 court TV version. Thermasius 1980 says FBI just raided Project Veritas office. Yes, they did. Very interesting thing. It looks like a failed psyop to me on that one. Looks like they did they sold a forged diary to Project Veritas, hoping they would publish it so they could go after them. Veritas decides to not publish it because they can't verify it, and then they go after them anyway. Turdeo says, Bainling was impressed. The Gravy Seal did 5 tours of a sub from Subway in one day. Wanted some curry, though. Amaranth says, here's some money. Go buy a large Gatorade, empty the bottle, and keep it under your desk. SCFUFFS says, this trial, clown shoes wrapped in hot garbage. Japanese Yakuza says, holy shit, how many times you need to go to the bathroom? I'm more than halfway in and I haven't gone yet. Dude, I broke the seal too early. It was my fault. The Sanity Revolt says, can you totally turn up court and down you guys a touch? I can't hear when you guys so much as breathe. STFUFFS says, P.S. the resistance pin is so unbelievably douchey. Kisanari says, how hilarious would it be if it came out that their car storage location was in Antioch? That'd be funny. Squirrel69 says, I get what the ADA is doing. He's putting as many BS witnesses on the stand to drown out all the details that are relevant and bore the jury. Otherwise, the ADA would have known about car doctor and other details about the brother. Joe Sullivan says, dear bigot, the reason for the DNA was to prove that the gun was grabbed to back up the video. It showed they touched the rifle everywhere except the trigger, proving the prosecution's narrative of going after a mass shooter. Ryan Caulfield says, WTF is the point of this line of questioning? I'm zoning out. You nailed it. You're zoning out. One thing to remember, if you're bored, jury's bored. And sometimes that's intentional. Blake Smith says, prosecuting attorney is wearing what looks to be a Star Wars Rebellion pin. Yep. Let's see. Oh, excuse me. Squirrel69 asks a good question. I read it on stream, but I'll read it again in case people miss it. Is it possible these guys could get sued for asking for the people to guard or allowing them to guard the locations? Is that why he's being sketchy with his answers? Yes. That and the insurance claims. Absolutely. If he asked them to guard and then one of them illegally shoots someone on the property, he could be liable for a wrongful death claim. Heck, even if legally, technically, he could be liable as well. David says this whole thing is a sting to get the car source on tax fraud. That'd be funny. Flamethrower says, when is Patrick Starr going to take the stand? Peter says, literally all delay to start Monday with Grosskreutz. Redneck Ram says, guess we know not to buy cars from anyone in this family. These guys are way too shady. Yeah. Scott R. say Littlefinger is setting it up to say Kyle planned it. Moose and Squirrel says Sam is not from the U.S. His culture does not trust any authority. A lot of his reactions are cultural. They don't look good on the stand. Matt Deckard says if the prosecution had confidence in any of their witnesses or qualified them, they'd be wearing suits. Razgriz Reborn says any advice on letter of religious exemption? I have until Monday to write one up or get the jab. Razgriz, Robert Barnes has one up on his locals. And you should, or on the vivabarneslaw.locals.com, go grab it. Grab it from there. He's got a sample letter you can use, or you can Google Robert Barnes, Robert Barnes religious exemption letter, and it'll get you there. Patrick McKeenan says, great balances and insight, great balance and insight today. Brian says, Nick needs a tissue. So much whinging. FM says, but we want good lawyers, not you. Chicken Ooble says, objection, Mr. Raggets is making speculation as to why the chat is here. The funny part is I'm reading all these and I basically don't remember any of it. I'm not sure. I'm sure I was yelling at the chat. And frankly, look, if we're being honest, frankly, chats are wonderful. They're usually very good chats. I've been in plenty of chats that are great people, full of excellent people. They walk around, they chat, they make good points. Friday, not the best. I've seen better chats. I've seen better ones, frankly. Let's see. Random Blaze says, you have a Biden sniffer apologist in chat called old school 978 rackets, who is under the impression that Kyle stole the AR, that we're committing breaking and entering at the dealerships, and Kyle's going to prison for defending himself. That's one of the narratives the prosecution is maybe trying to pull. It's not a great narrative, and if you're buying it, then you're probably not very smart. But maybe old school 978 is just trolling because it would be hard to have an opinion that stupid. Michael Ravel says, did the Indians just lie to cover their bases? It seemed they didn't want to admit something. Look, again, they are possibly on the hook for wrongful death and possible tax or insurance issues. Bill Potter says they are trying to put in that no one requested security, making Kyle a trespasser. Please comment if that affects a self-defense defense. If Kyle didn't have permission to be there, no, it still doesn't affect the self-defense defense. Shockingly, you can be a felon who has stolen a gun from a gun store and then be walking around with said gun that you stole from a gun store. You could be out past curfew. You could be trespassing. And if some other person comes up to you, threatens your life, and you utilize those things, that gun to defend yourself, you are justified. You may catch a gun charge. You may catch a trespassing charge, but you are wholly justified in self-defense. The penalty for doing something wrong is not "I'll just die." Because that's the answer. Self-defense is to be used when you're in reasonable fear of imminent death or serious bodily harm. So the alternative to acting in a way of using lethal force is to die. That's it. It's binary here. This is not some hippie fucking nonsense 2021 gender chart. This is binary. You either act in self-defense or you die. All right? That's it. So no, prior bad acts that are not directly related to provoking the instant activity in a reasonable and logical way cannot invalidate your self-defense claim. Nobody there, and they've established this over and over, nobody there knew Kyle was 17. So Kyle being a minor in possession of a firearm has no bearing on anybody's on the self-defense case at all. It can't, because no one stopped him. Encountered multiple police, around multiple people. All sorts of people saw this guy and they go, okay, he's got a gun, whatever. No one walked up and said, hey, are you 18? Show me your ID. No cop stopped him and said, you got a fresh face, kid. And he's like, whoa, you sound like a pedo. He's like, I deal with those in a different way. And the cop's like, no. I just mean you look a little young. Can you show me some ID? Why do you have that gun? Where'd you get it? None of that happened. Absolutely zero. So this cannot be a bar to self-defense. Now, can it taint a jury? Sure. But legally speaking, it's not. Now, if you trespass, if you steal a gun from someone and they confront you, different story. If you're stealing a gun and trespassing on someone's property and the owner of the property confronts you, different story. These are how the provocation works. Just existing in a place where there's 1,000 other people cannot be provocation, even if you're open carrying a gun, because you can open carry a gun in Wisconsin. Since you can open carrying a gun by fucking definition cannot be provocation. Pointing a gun at someone, saying I'll shoot you, saying I'm going to kill you, these are provocative acts. And so many people have gotten this so embarrassingly wrong, fueled by a media that is embarrassingly bad, but also fueled by, frankly, left-leaning morons. Not everybody on the left, hashtag not all lefties or whatever, but left-leaning morons who are stuck on this idea that they don't understand what provocation is. Again, a girl walking into a pack of horny 19-year-olds wearing a short skirt. This is the left's argument for the past 50 years. If she gets raped, they can't blame the girl and the outfit, right? Because she didn't provoke the attack. Now, her outfit cannot be provocative. It's just not. There has to be some subsequent act. In the case of the rape, it would be consent. That would be the subsequent act. So they want 6 to 1. They want to have all of their points on one side, but they don't on the other. Carrying a gun open in Wisconsin is not a provocative act. You'd have to do something with the gun or make specific words to indicate some sort of threat or provocation. If you walk around with your gun and then you're insulting people or sitting on their cars or something like that, different story. But yes, back to the original question. If Kyle's a trespasser, which there's competing testimony that they absolutely did. And I don't think anybody believes the Indian guy over like Dominic Black and Ryan Balch, because the Indian guy looked like he was lying to us. He looked like he's lying to the jury also. But even if they didn't give them permission to be there explicitly, they were still there, and that has no bearing on the self-defense claim. Randy Chase says, Kyle is innocent and Rekieta Law seems cowardly and ignoring Barnes' criticism. Do you has hearing problems? I've been asked about the Barnes criticism. I don't know if you're talking about Barnes's criticism of the defense, which I've spoken to on my show about probably 15 times. Spoken about it on Viva's show. Had Barnes on to get, and you can find it because I uploaded a separate video of it outside of the live stream of Barnes and I with good logic talking about his criticisms. What do you mean ignoring the criticism? What are you talking about? Like, I've directly addressed it several times. Very weird. Very weird. But if you haven't seen that video, maybe go watch the video. I've never mind. That's such a weird thing. Or maybe I'm supposed to criticize Barnes. I'm not sure. Am I supposed to criticize Barnes? You're talking your 3 super chats, bros. I don't know what you mean. Okay. Anyway, Law Abernathy says, do you think they will call Grosskreutz to stand? Yes, Monday. Brandon Allen says, thank you, Nick and guests, for all the great commentary. And we know they're going to call him on Monday because they said they will. BG says, if the court volume is low, you need to turn commenter volume down because you are too loud compared to the sound of the court. Arrogant boomer. Actually, I'll call you ignorant chatter. Now, I've talked about this. StreamYard lowers the volume on what's on the screen when people talk. They just do. It's part of the software that also happens. Cat Zap says, looks like the text message was created after the fact. Looks bogus. Possible. David Bowser says, Shart of feces. Matty Ice says, how do you anticipate defense dealing with Gage's wish I'd have shot that chicken nugget in his Cabeza post? Do you know if that was allowed into evidence? I think they'll try and introduce it. If they're smart, they will. We'll see. Zendrick says, badgering grieving woman is not a good look. Anyone on the jury who has lost family/partner would sure be empathetic. Cigar Gangster says, appreciate the commentary given how poorly Binger and his crew are doing. Do you think Binger was forced to try this case from a higher authority? I mean, his boss would have asked him to try the case. Yes. Binger is the assistant district attorney. His district attorney would make the decision to prosecute and would assign it to a prosecutor who could refuse to take the case, and then it would be assigned to a different prosecutor. So however that went out, Binger's the guy to do it. Eric the Red says, ask Legal Bites if she would step on Attorney Tom if he's into that. I hear he's into that sort of thing. Slagla says, in Lemoyne, show feet. TLJ Screwjob says, really hope Kyle's team gets the would have shot him too from Gage that the state's video can conveniently cut before it finished that sentence. Hopefully they do. And if they do, they can actually try to bring in the other one. They talked about this a little bit for completeness, right? They want to bring in the rest of the video for completeness because if they left a portion out, they could say, no, there's more evidence there that could change the status of it. Do I think they messed the jury up? First of all, Jable, stop spamming. Send me a comment. If I don't respond, ask it again several minutes later, but stop spamming, please. But do you think they messed the jury up? Does this mean Kyle is doomed? We have no idea if they messed the jury up. We don't actually know anything about the jury they selected. The most we know is about the people who left. That's that. But is Kyle doomed? No. Russian name says, maybe defense have plans for Kyle to testify to sneak in some character evidence. E.g., are you feeling sorry for killing this man? Not anymore, because I now know about the cheese pizza. That would not be admissible. They could get in a lot of trouble for trying that. I don't know why they plan on having Kyle on the stand. Maybe he really wants to talk about how sorry he is that he killed people. I think it's a bad idea. Yes, juror number 7 got axed for his joke. Yes, I saw the thing about CJTV. I got it. Let's see. Blake Pritchard says, is it still possible to admit Rosenbaum's criminal history before the jury at this point? Possibly. It depends on what comes out, but I think that's a low chance opportunity now. It's a small girl. Says, can this questioning on the Carr brothers be used to set up civil liabilities on a follow-up case? Yes. Nick Castelfamo says Binger's turtle paste speaking demeanor is 100% Bill Lumberg, the boss from Office Beat. What's up, Peter? Did you get the memo about the evidence you were supposed to mention your testimony? That'd be great. Yeah. Azazel the Fallen says he has the bladder of a 5'6" man. Japanese Yakuza says, I want you breezies now. Here for lulz says, I'm confident that Nick could sniff out any smack talk as well as anything else in existence. Eskimo 56 says, why don't more witnesses and or defendants use the Epstein defense if I can't remember after smirking at the question on the stand? Because it looks really bad. It looks terrible. What the hell? 200 Watch Studio says, so the inventory manager doesn't know his job. His dad does it. He just gets paid. Is this money laundering? No, not necessarily. Could have some implications with some other things, but it's not automatically money laundering. Cartoon Foxes says, would love to have Ian Runkle on. Have you spoken with him yet? I got a message from him. I need to respond. Odinum says, why is this guy playing hard to get? Steve S. says, Attorney Tom watching from Santa Barbara. Larry Everett says, as a non-lawyer, I'm enjoying the commentary, but can you do anything about the audio, specifically when the number 2 defense walks away from the mic? No. When Shirafisi walks away from the mic, there is even less I can do about the audio. Like I said, I and my guests try to talk less, and especially when they're not saying anything important. Another Monotream says, Rosenbaum's girlfriend touched wet blood. How many hours? Yeah, she did not. Greg Albright says, so pro lawyers, you call this witness and he does this. How does it affect your case? I don't think that I mean, other than bringing 2 witnesses that look completely non-credible, I don't think it had much impact for the prosecution there. Video Maven says, did the insurance pay off all the cars and damage? Afraid may have to give the money back. I don't know if they've paid them yet, but that would be the idea. Talix says, this is as painful as calling tech support. Vox Darkstar says, with all the dealership stuff, you should have Steve Leto on. 200 Watt Studio says, that was my super chat 30 minutes ago. The inventory manager doesn't know his job. His dad does. I figured it was money laundering. This kid can't manage his sock drawer. Britt Kormeyer says, the inventory manager does not know how much inventory he lost because he does not know his dad claimed on the insurance. Printer God says, didn't know my plumber and fireman, Mr. Sins, was also an Italian lawyer. Italian. Where's the Italian come from? Oh no. Okay. Printer God, I got the joke. You're talking about Shirafisi and a certain Mr. Sins. That's the plumber and fireman. You have to be a degenerate to understand that joke. Got it. Midwest Rail Fan says, is that an Eddie Bauer vest? Could be on the dealership guy. Binger looks like he's about to cry from Bee Sting 84. Rico says, this is part of a Phoenix Wright game where the witness gets convicted of the murder. DCV Titan says, the wheat needs better ESL programs. Colton Autry says, big oof. Adam Riley says, why does this inventory manager have to say, what does this inventory manager have to say so we can see Binger stand on a stool and wrap his tie around a rafter on camera? Let's see. Who can the defense call that the state hasn't already? The defense can call Kyle Rittenhouse. The defense can call, they can, I guess in theory, they could call anyone the state has called. Also, they could call them back to the stand if they think they can get something out of them. They could call anyone else who was there as a witness. They could call detectives. The main one that the defense has is Dr. John Black. Jable, no problem. Like I said, we have one rule on the channel, and that's no spamming. So I wasn't trying to like dress you down or anything. Just that's the one rule in chat. But yes, happy to answer when I do see it on those things. The Helmet Head says, hello to Tom. I don't remember what I wanted to say. Nobody does. Nobody does. Okay. We're getting there. Urban Phoenix Fox says, I'm an airline inventory supervisor. Even if you don't know the money aspect, you definitely know the quantity and what gets wrecked because you are the inventory manager. Yes. Basidia says, heard that the mayor, DA, and the investigating rookie detective are family members. Do you know if that's true? Nope. I've just heard it. Joe B says, you can see the pain to Binger's soul. Evil Bunny says, let's make it 50 a day. Also, this cop looks like the guy that installs your cable. TMI. Yes. Now I got it. I hear you have a problem with Dyna Cable. The Japanese Yakuza says, I threw up, so I lost. Tricon 40 says, if you would have gone to the bathroom 8 times, Japanese Yakuza, you would have been fine. Tricon 40, I wasn't fine. Says, defense, did you know the value of the damaged property? Inventory manager, I do not recall. Ron Toy, hey, that's my line. Mandalore Wise says, as a gun nut, I prefer a 9mm for AR for close quarter self-defense. Watermelon Sugar High says, just a heads up, the whole world is watching, not just the U.S. Illegal possession of a firearm. I called it. Tarek Twilight says, Chat is a court-certified weapons expert. Chat is a certified expert in everything. Everything. Lars Larson says, Ricada Law is the fucking worst. I love the high praise. Keep it coming. DB Pooper says, I'm glad you have yourself armed, Ricada. I wish I had guns, but I live in Florida and I'm a pretty reckless boater. It's a shame. It's a shame. All those guns, bottoms of swamps, oceans, all of that stuff. Ryan Keeler says, could those 40 cal rounds be those 3 shots that haven't been identified? Possible. Very possible. Green Irish Knight says, guy who had his arm blew off had a Glock, correct? Glocks come chambered in 40 cal. And we had mysterious gunshots, right? Just a Dude said, Ricada is the Bill Burr of law commentary from a Brit Irish that never took the boat. Philip Vecchio says, this proves the defense. 40 Smith & Wesson demonstrates a fear of bodily harm by Kyle. Squizgar 2322 says, in Robert's voice, you mean Richards, objection, Your Honor. What the fuck is going on here? My name isn't important, says the 40 cal pistol might be the handgun the fat guy was talking about yesterday. Said he had a pistol and a rifle. Kyle only had the rifle, so the shell cases have nothing to do with Kyle. The Biv says, are some of these witnesses just for the press in case he loses to save face for his campaign? Very possible. Very possible. Let's see. You think Kyle will walk free out of the courthouse? And if so, do you think there will be riots? Yes and yes. We the People says, skateboard guy's girlfriend has the skateboard and she will not be testifying. Do you know why? I don't know if she has the skateboard or if she, destroyed it. There's some questions about it. Watching You Daily says, if Groskowitz had a no firearm bail condition, then it's against the law for him to have a gun. A lot of if. We don't know. That's the thing. Duke Chronic says, how many drinks the first week of trial? Way too many. And then Jacob Ben says, when will the judge make the decision whether to dismiss the charges due to insufficient evidence or not? Probably pretty quickly. If they bring a motion for the dismissal, I think they'd rule on it, or he'd rule on it pretty quickly. Matt Jackson says, any downside to losing that request to the judge? Sorry if it's been asked. Probably the judgment notwithstanding a verdict, I think is what we were talking about there. Or directed verdict. No, because that would be decided without the jury at all. There'd be no downside unless it was completely frivolous and ridiculous. I don't think it is here. President-elect Austin M says 100% they go for directed verdict after Gage testifies. Yeah, I'm thinking it's very likely. Redster says, so at 2:07 of the ABC breakdown video from 3 days ago, it shows the 3 flashes above the car after Kyle shoots, obviously coming from the crowd Kyle was headed toward. He ran toward an armed mob. Yeah, very possible. Did he know? I mean, these are good questions. My name isn't important, says Prosecutor Baron Harkonnen. My mayonnaise, my bacon, my sandwich. RMS Chad says, even if Huber did believe he was stopping a rogue gunman, how does that weaken Kyle's case? It doesn't legally, but the defense or the prosecution can try and sway the jury with it. Comrade Roof Cree in the base says, who has Minecrafted more dogs, the ATF or Dr. Fasci? I think the ATF probably will hold the record for all time. except maybe for PETA. Moist John says the rifle Kyle used, that Kyle said he used, that Kyle and his team says he shot, was indeed in Kyle's hands. Mither and Emrys says the point these witnesses to eat up enough time so they can call Bicep Boy first on Monday when the jury is fresh. I agree. Yazoogle says after Kyle is found not guilty, is Binger going to go after Kyle's friend or the Marine to salvage his political career? He's already going after Dominic Black. And despite the utter lie that they don't have a deal in place, though, I think Dominic Black is going to get a very favorable treatment, even if Kyle walks on this. Because if he doesn't, I'm guessing Kyle's attorney has maybe some emails about it. If I had to guess. Kyle Surface. Oh, man, I don't think I read this one. That's too bad. It was a big one. It says, it's un-American to have only 2 pew-pews. Take this and start building a collection of fishing rods. May I suggest starting with a carbine in the .223 caliber? Who only has 2 pew-pews? Sushi Joe says, just bring in the whole precinct. Why don't you? But thank you to Kyle Surface. Thank you very much. This case, Machiavellius to go says, this case will show if white Americans are allowed to defend their communities. I think that's a reasonable assessment. Here for lol says, Judge, WTF is the point of your witness, Binger? Prosecution. Well, people died, Your Honor. Judge, but we know that. Why wasn't it self-defense? Prosecution. Well, people died, Your Honor. Russell Hall says the prosecution is using a barrage tactic. They have no case, so they're throwing as many witnesses in front of the jury as possible to overwhelm them. I think that's accurate. BG Willia says AR-15s and M16s were known as Mattel rifles for the amount of polymer in them. Newer AR-15s use Picatinny rails to attach sights and other accessories. I hate Yankees, says Thomas Binger, and the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Feed me a kitten, says the prosecution heard itself in its confusion. It was super effective. Gigoku says the state's case has been nuked from orbit, Warhammer 40K style. Right now, yes. Angry A says, does Legal Bites have an OnlyFans? You guys. Oh my goodness. We need to have a talk, guys. Russell Hall says the real Anna would never be watching actual news. DCV Titan says, got away. You weren't pursuing him. Richard Fada says, can we get body cam footage or dash cam footage of Tom Cruise here? Because I don't believe him. Angry A says, does Rekieta Law have an OnlyFans? I do not. Not applicable says, hands up, don't shoot, dumb fug cop. Siberia says, 5.56 by 45 millimeter NATO is fired out of AR-15's office. 223 Remington is the American version, sort of. The Scott 16 or officer, he means officer. Scott 16 says, I see your tiny arm, Henry Cavill, and raise you tiny arm Wolverine and tiny arm Thanos. Google them. Russell Hall says, wait, the cop doesn't know why soft body armor doesn't stop rifle rounds. They don't teach ballistics and officer training. And again, your average cop is not a munitions or ballistics or firearms expert under the court. They would have to qualify him in as an expert to talk about a lot of this stuff. Detested Dredge says, this is how I would run this trial as the prosecutor if I was trying to sabotage it. My name isn't important. Says any cop would know the difference between level 3 and level 4 body armor. Level 3 won't stop rifle rounds. Level 4 will. Sword and Scale says, you are doing an incredible public service, Nick. Also great panel, highly informative and entertaining. SCFU FFS says, Nick, when you guys were talking, the cop said I was driving. And when Kyle ran to the window, I pulled my weapon and my partner pulled his OC spray. Crazy. Brain says, drunk Nick is best, Nick. 3 more shots and he will start blubbering about the time his uncle played hide the salami with him. Oh my goodness. Not applicable says, lying pig. Think we're supposed to kneel for him. Real Hydro PX says, we need more whammon and SJW cops. GG even 317 says, Rekieta Law. When did Mr. Stay Puff join the prosecution? Oh, no. Yeah, he's a big boy. He is a big boy. Ovid says, isn't this better for the defense than a fresh jury on Monday? Are the jurors going to have the impression from this destructoid to sink in all weekend? Destruction. Yes, they are. Whether they'll take it that way is, up to them. Why did some of the police try to trash Kyle so hard in their testimonies? That's a very, very good question. Maybe because Kyle was doing their job, and maybe they're jealous of it. Peter says, just so we're clear, the left is absolutely certain the judge is biased in favor of Rittenhouse to a criminal level. Yes, they do. And they've been writing articles since pre-trial on the judge, and it has not actually gone well, by the way. If you want to blame the judge for the bias, blame the media for accusing him of bias first. Torqued off the judge, and you can tell it torqued off the judge because he talked about reading the articles about how the media is actually lying about what's happening in the courtroom. Ty Beard, oh, dang it, says, do the prosecutors even wince anymore when they step on their own dicks? David Bowser says, this judge needs a court TV show. Kingslayer Damocles says, the Tom Cruise wannabe is testifying. He is the reason these riots were/are happening. Bad cop, bad cop, bad cop. Get him off the force. Gigi Evans says, the judge reminds me of the Six Flags guy. Mandalore Wise says, Nick, do you plan on doing a weekly recap with as many of the YouTube lawyers at once? Eric Hunley style. I unfortunately don't have time to do that. I've been streaming to the absolute max this whole weekend and this weekend. Since I didn't see my family much for the week, I've spent most of the weekend with them. GSPI 1005 says, everyone who comes on this stream, I want to have insert wholesome experience with this judge. Also, Nick, can you turn up the audio? I can't hear the trial anymore. The Real Hydro PX says, how would I use precedent in a sentence? Let's see. The most common way is this court is bound by precedent in the ruling of X versus Y from the Supreme Court of this state. They held that. So we are similarly bound. I hope that helps. Brian Allman says, you need the clerk to do their job far more than the clerk needs you to do your job. Never underestimate that power balance. Rumpley Depew says, thanks for your streams. Your talent, knowledge, and wit are as large as that booger factory hanging below your receding hairline. Lewis says, playing catch up on the feed. Have so many questions. Why did the cop testify in ballistic uniform? Was there an active shooter threat? There's always an active shooter threat because Kyle Rittenhouse is still in the courtroom. That's why, you always have cops testify in uniform, even when they're not on duty. You always do it, right? I guess except for the one that they had testify in a suit, but he's a detective. So they just want the impression. It lends credence and authority to their testimony. That's one of the reasons. Tito Ortiz, these nuts says, can you explain the Aaron Rodgers situation? I can't. Because I'm not fully familiar with it, but from my understanding, Aaron Rodgers maybe misrepresented his vaccine status, and the team may have covered it up, and now they got slapped down by the NFL because the NFL requires vaccines. Julie Jinx says, I've been donating monthly to Kyle's fund for a while now because of Barnes and was sickened to hear the defense threw his help in the trash. Yeah. Again, if I were in Richards's place, I would have decided differently. Rosen, the obliterator, says, can we talk about defamation suit from Kyle's lawyers for the media portraying him as a white supremacist? Even Biden used him in his campaign video. I mean, we can. It's going to be really hard because he is a public figure who did, in fact, shoot people at a giant rally, and white supremacist is shockingly hard to litigate for defamation. Now, if they said something like he had a documented history of racism or something easier, it's a really tough case. Really tough case. We'll see what comes up after that. Reno Ryan says, I think I'm seeing a new reality show incoming. Emily D. Baker, lobster lawyer. Brake Pritchard says, will Gage simply plead the fifth, given how disastrous today was for the prosecution? Gage is not currently being prosecuted and probably will not plead the fifth. Looking forward to defense making him read his Facebook post. And once he testifies for the state, he's not going to be able to plead the fifth on subsequent testimony. You don't get to say part of your testimony and then suddenly go, whoa, now I plead the fifth. Not going to work that way. Avahine says, Hodge twins have an amazing cockroach gravy recipe. That's disgusting. Levi King says, I'm under the impression fish and wildlife are basically gods with unchecked power, but I live in the South. No, they are. They are up here too. The DNR in Minnesota, for example, just shocking amounts of ability to create criminal charges against you without you even really having any option to fight them. Chris Karabat says, so far been enjoying this as distracting background noise during the week for several days now. Here's 20 to buy the power cable. the power cable for this camera is actually, it's like $150. But yeah, we ran out doing the 10 hours straight. Atarka 71 says, prosecution basically shot themselves in the foot today is all it was. Really? Yes. Brett Otteson says, I want a stolen infected butt storybook. I want it now. Russell Wallace Warren says, thank you for your service. Amaya Tenjo says, Nick, you are one of the most entertaining people here on YouTube. Hey, thank you. Thank you. Finally, the respect I agree with and therefore deserve. Lagging, I got 20 minutes and we're working. Deep Service says 137 cars, roughly 12,330 square feet, nut to butt, no space. The 40 caliber were the other shots after Kyle fired. They were in the streets. Real Hydro PX says, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think the judge wants this to become Brown versus Board of Education, but for self-defense. No, I don't think so either. Dave B says, Grosskreutz on Monday should be interesting. I agree. That's the one interesting possibility. If the judge does a directed verdict or a JNOV, the state has much more grounds to appeal than any other situation that would come up. Dave B says, Polaris says, will Rosenbaum's girlfriend testify to where he got his N-word pass? I wish. Jamal Breezy says, I love this. Watermelon Sugar High says, don't forget McGinnis was chasing Kyle with a raised phone in his hand. Please read. Atarka says, this is an amazing stream. Dustman Naroch says, who gave them access to the building? The Indian guys did. Obviously did. SCFU-FF. They took pictures with them. They're smiling. According to Dominic Black, they not only had a phone exchange, but they drove them to the property. Of course they did. Of course they did. It really does not make sense for 10 random strangers to show up at a building, to break into it, to defend it for no purpose, and then not do anything cool, right? Like just stand around there all night, putting themselves in harm's way for the whole night with no permission. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Much more plausible thing, the Occam's razor on this one, simplest explanation, is that of course the Indian guys did, and then they just lied about it on the stand for insurance reasons. Adam K., you cannot have a directed verdict of guilty. Yeah, STFU FFS says, yeah, but a couple days ago, the prosecution burned one of their own witnesses by getting him to confess to 18 USC section 1001 felony. Hashtag what a shit show. Very possible. Very possible. Blake Pritchard says, Kyle needs defamation lawyer, Nick Sandman 2.0. And who knows? Maybe Barnes will be in on that, for example, because it seemed like Barnes maybe had contact with Wendy Rittenhouse, but I don't know. Again, you'd have to ask Barnes these questions. EGP Production says, why didn't have Rosenbaum's girlfriend say that he is a chomo? Seems like an easy win to me, because they couldn't. That was excluded pre-trial, and there would have to be something specific to allow them to get there. I think they could have pushed harder and gotten it in, but they chose not to. Andrew Arick says the AR-15 is on trial too. They want more gun control. That is true. Ryland Davis says, what are your thoughts on Kyle's attorney indicating he will testify? I think it's a big mistake. Judge Gary says, hey, now tread Dr. lightly when commenting about judges. You never know who might be watching. RS says, do lawyers factor in being able to get a quick yes into an obvious objectionable question before defense can respond in order to influence the jury? Absolutely, they do. A target says, quick question about the situation. What kind of suit could I do to a bank who doesn't reimburse my stolen money from their hacked account? I mean, I guess you could argue theft, that they are responsible for the theft, the negligence, something like that. You'd have to talk to an attorney in your state about it, but there are certainly possibilities. If it was hacked, there are also federal and typically state provisions on data security that they would need to follow as well, and they may have violated those. Dr. Sammy D says, has anybody checked the back of Sheriff Feces' head for a barcode? Real Hydro PX says, Nate, Sativa, or Indica? Indica, yes, because you're black. Rude. SCFU FFS says, YouTuber, liberal hive mind, 800K subscribers, used a clip your day 2 stream for his video in the trial a little while ago, and it's already got 20,000 views. Cool. President-elect Austin M says, does defense bring 939.48 back up and request dismissal? Yes. Actually, that dismissal is already, that is still pending. The dismissal is still pending. The judge can rule on it. They've had a motion for reconsideration on it. Okay, next. Juan Cena says, Russell is my favorite paraplegal. C4 Owen says, Nick, you have to introduce Emily to the Mountain Jew. That would be very funny. The Mountain Jew is a lady who claims to be Jewish, who is not, who is also an insane person who sues people frivolously, literally constantly. And she's a laugh riot a minute because she sues them with herself as counsel. And she's frankly just an idiot. Real Hydro PX says, Nick, when are you going on the Jesse Lee Peterson show? You are amazing. I would go on the Jesse Lee Peterson show any day. That guy's a hilarious and wonderful broadcaster. It's a small girl says, how did the prosecutor not have a full history rundown on the dead guy's meds, mental health, not to present, but ready with it without on-site Google? Atarka71, maybe they thought it wasn't going to come in because they're crazy. Tarka71 says, Nick, sorry for doing this, but I said it yesterday about my GoFundMe because I got screwed over, but I forgot to put it here. So you could, could you shout it out? It would help. Called Money Stolen by Nico Smith. Thank you. So yeah, if you guys are interested, Nico Smith has a GoFundMe for his stolen money from the bank. And you can check that out on GoFundMe. Drake Glazer says, just saying, people watch EFAP for 24 hours straight. We want long form content. I agree. YouTube doesn't like pushing long form content, but I know people want it because I've been doing it for 4 years now. Real Hydro PX says, lawyers are the new cam girls on YouTube. I used to follow the science channels till the COVIDs. Theophrastus says, because after the Russia collusion hoax, the election abnormalities and the censorship, nobody trusts the major media anymore. Phil James 1 says, we like the mix of personalities and different legal minds. Me too. 13 Speed Demon says, Nick got distracted from super chats like Yellow Flash does on Flashcast. I did. That was the liquor. Dapper Wolf says, hey, Nick, you know, you were powerful enough to get Whoopi Goldberg on your stream. Also, is that chick who does no malarkey with Lauren Chen? I don't think so. Fractal Machine says, does screwing up a case this badly ruin Binger's future political career as much as he assumed putting an innocent kid in jail would guarantee one? I hope so. Massive damage. He's done. Look, it's not malpractice. It's not professional. It's not a violation of professional ethics, but it's a big dick move to do the prosecution and to do it in the way that he has. And he's the type of prosecutor, in my opinion, you do not want working in that office. So I hope it ruins his career. Massive Damage Gaming says, Nick, what stream did you watch the Attorney General get ripped apart? Can't find it. It was, I think it would have been Thursday or Friday of the previous week, but I don't remember. Sorry. K. Shiloh Williams says, evening all. Nick, I sent you an email yesterday. Situation has escalated. Would appreciate your opinion. Boss has gone full Ralph. I'll have to check it. I haven't been following up much with email this week. Rotor13 says, I've been watching your channel for the past 2 years, and by far I've learned more about presenting a good argument on any topic from you than elsewhere. Thank you for the entertainment and education. Also, send love to Drex. Will do. Thank you. It's always good to get encouraging messages. Thank you very much. Clown World Resident says, any chance they black out Gage Grosskritz's testimony like the feds and that victim's law? I don't think so. I don't think they can. Dana, I mean, they could, I guess, but I don't think that the judge would allow it. Dano the Mano says, Sneed. 13 Speed Demon says, Nick, you owe us 7,000 and 7,500 likes, drinks. Zero Smith says there is no nap, only Zool. There was no nap, only basically a full night's sleep. Mario Carter 13. I woke up at 11:30, and I did do a locals exclusive, but I figured it was too late to do a YouTube stream. Mario Carter 13 says, Gage stares deeply into Kyle's eyes. Do you have any idea how hard it is to drive a windowless van past an elementary school with only one arm? That one's from today. So we're on today's chats now. And if I do not finish them here, I will finish them after Robert Grueller. But I think we'll get them done in just a moment. Maybe. I got about 15 minutes. Bad Vibe says, what are the consequences for threatening jurors? See Twit DM for video related to the question. Yes, there's a whole lot into that. And I think people are correctly concerned about it, but I don't think the court is going to be overly concerned about it right now, although they may implement some more, some better checks. I can't believe they would allow anything like a camera or a cell phone in that room except from the press, but we'll see. Wally Ball. Read that one. Jamie Polayam says, glad you're alive. You were sauced, lol. I've had worse days, but I've had better days. Not applicable says, flood him, more super chats. He can't stop us. Super Mario Subpoena says, if I shat myself in court, would I be able to force a recess? Could I do this indefinitely, postponing my own trial? Possibly. Andrew War Snowboard says, do you plan on talking about Henry Ruggs the third ever? I don't know who Henry Ruggs the third is. And GE Fan says, this stream isn't for new super chats. You can't tell me what to do. I tried. Eddie Oliver says, Rob Grueller is one of my personal attorneys, and you were one of my favorite YouTube attorneys. I'm glad to see you're connecting. Well, in case you missed it, Robert and I have each had a show on each other's channels. So if you didn't see those, make sure you check him out. I think he's great. And every time he's on, all the ladies in my chat go absolutely nuts. I don't know. It must be the way I do my hair. Rice Jones says, I can't wait to see how Biceps Guy will explain his attempted assassination. Midigo says, Fentanyl Floyd's subhuman cousin Cortez Rice is claiming he knows people taking pictures of jurors in Kyle Rittenhouse's trial with the express purpose of doxing the jury. Yes, I heard this. That's a quick way to get a mistrial if they do any of that. Wrestler Town says, how many bicep emojis do you think we'll see in the chat during the Grosskreutz testimony? Not enough. However, it is not enough. Bristol BB says, would it help Binger to drop the first charge to assert active shooter claim on the other two? They believe Kyle was an active shooter. I don't know how dropping the first charge would help them. Adrian W., my hair is a disaster. What is happening back here? Riley says, sorry if you talked about this already, but what's thoughts on the fact that one of the last two shots on Rosenbaum was in the back, killing him? Must have been after he was almost on the ground. Now, first of all, the shots all occur in 3/4 of a second. All four shots do. So he's lunging. Bullet hits him in like the pelvis, and he's not able to fall down. And then the bullet hits him this way, coming in. It's, bam, 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 as someone's falling. The thoughts are, you're shooting at someone who's trying to kill you. Typically, a lot of times in concealed carry classes and stuff like that, they'll advise a full mag dump into someone. Now, mag dumping with 30 rounds is a lot different than mag dumping with 7 to 15, but they'll tell you to keep shooting until the threat is completely neutralized. So that's a thing. Also, old school, I only caught your random tag spurging out in the chat about saying that I won't lie or will lie. But based on what you were saying earlier, I'm thoroughly convinced that you have literally no grounds to talk about self-defense law anyway. So I'm going to ignore it. I think only one shot, by the way, Riley, was actually in his back. I don't think it was two. The prosecutor only mentioned one. If the prosecutor, and he really focused on that. So I think if there were two, he would actually be really hammering in that second shot. K-Bean says, Nick, do you think the Arbery case is taking political BLM heat off of the Rittenhouse case? Possibly, because there's actually a dead black guy in the Arbery case and there's not in the Rittenhouse case. Crusader Saracen says, congrats on the boost in subscribers, Nick. Hey, thank you. Thank you. Yes, we passed 180,000. We did pass 180,000, so that's awesome. The Sanity Revolt says, very sorry about volume comment the other day. You don't have to apologize. Back and forth, it's fun. Do you think Gage will commit perjury tomorrow? If so, what about? Maybe. Very, very possible. Very possible. And I don't hold grudges on people for saying the audio's bad. Or anything like that. I mean, I've taken down your name and addresses and I've called up Ted Kaczynski, but I don't hold grudges. And that'd be silly. Lynn F says, did you see the video of George Floyd's nephew about knowing the jurors and picks in the courtroom? Yes. President-elect Austin M says, the defense opening argument is insanely good. No. And bolstered now with the witnesses we've seen. We've been playing tic-tac-toe and Richards is playing Galaga. No, the defense's opening argument is not good. It had lots of good facts, but it was not insanely good. Not by any stretch of the imagination. You could have done the same thing with a better opening argument and still gotten the facts in. But yeah, no, I will not go that far. Selrin says, and remember, I didn't say it was the worst thing ever. I just said, ugh. And that the prosecution's was better because it was. But the rest of the case is so good for the defense, and those facts matter. Fact lives matter. Selrin says McInnes and Bulge are sandwiched in the middle, so Chonky Man can continue to dream of sandwiches. Seagoody says Saint Rittenhouse, perforator of pedos, destroyer of delinquent biceps. Fact Uniga says, Nick, if I get called as a witness by the state and on direct, respond to a question with objection leading the witness, what happens? That would be funny. I'm sure the judge would reprimand you politely to say that's not your job. The Median says, love your work, especially regarding coverage of the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Been recommending your channels on all social media. Thank you. Any thoughts on success probability if when the state appeals? No, I don't think if Kyle wins and the state appeals, I don't think the appeals court is going to have, they're not going to be overturning a jury verdict of not guilty. Like that's just not going to happen. The only way I think the state would appeal would be on a directed verdict or a judgment notwithstanding of the verdict, because those are based on law. A defendant can appeal based on all sorts of things when a jury comes in, but the state appealing is really, we're talking extremely rare. And guys, I'm going to have to finish there. Because I have to go to dinner, and we've still got a bunch left, but I will keep this here. And after my interview with Robert Grueller, I will finish them up no matter how long it goes. Very sorry guys, but I've got in-laws in from out of town, which means I am going to go. Actually, I got 6 minutes. 6 minutes. Let's do 6 minutes. Roman Harlan says, what's the go with the defense not having access to the FBI footage and it may have been deleted? The judge hasn't fully ruled on that FBI footage issue. Could be a problem. That could be grounds for a mistrial in theory. We have to see how the judge handles it and what else happens in the case. Resident Frequency says, can Grosskreutz invoke the fifth to individual questions? Sort of. Once you start testifying and open the door, the fifth isn't going to help you very much. Either way seems risky as hell. Plus, he may have a deal already with the prosecutor that he's not going to be prosecuted for anything. And if that's the case, then there is no Fifth Amendment protection necessary. Can Kyle use his testimony against him in the civil suit? Yes. You don't have a Fifth Amendment right on a civil suit, so that he can't use that as an excuse. But you can bring up his existing civil suit against the city, which Kyle may actually be named in as well. You can bring that up as to discredit his testimony. Myron Record says Binger looks like a cross between Gary Oldman and Russell Greer. Changed my mind. Wouldn't dare. Bad Vibe says Binger modeled himself after Sam Rockwell's portrayal of Justin Hammer from I Am 2. Lagging says G. Floyd's relative is claiming he knows that someone took secret pictures of the jury. Yes, we've talked about it a couple times. Camera Shy says, do you think Gage's second DUI he got in October that you can find on YouTube will be brought up? Maybe, probably not relevant to the case. So unless the door gets opened in some other way, Mandy Carvisius says, what does Christopher Walken have to say about Kyle Rittenhouse case so far? Well, I think he's probably going to walk. President-elect Austin N says, all this happened in 45 minutes within a 1,500-foot radius. Edward Redbeard says, do you know why Arbery was prescribed Zyprexa? Nope. Tito Ortiz D's Nuts says, congrats on 180K. Here's to getting to 200,000. Thank you. Thank you. Bunsy the Frog says, answer is probably none, but does a witness have any leeway to push back on direct? This is leading. You're asking me to speculate, etc. This is leading, not so much. You're asking me to speculate? Yes. But usually on direct, a witness is favorable. So not common to have that happen. JWC says, when does info like the difference between FMJ and hollow points go from something an expert needs to establish to something that's just a known fact? It depends on how relevant the questions are. If you're talking about penetration and over penetration, you need an expert on that. FS says, thanks for the excellent coverage, man. Wish I could give more. Oh, never wish that. Every bit, even just people showing up and watching without super chats is fantastic. It says, put these few bucks towards a bottle of whiskey. I will. Pro Gunner says, do you see the judge reversing a guilty verdict? I think right now it's possible. I do. First of all, I don't see a guilty verdict as likely, but I think it is possible for a judge to do that at this point. Dapper Dave says, in the videos I've seen about Rittenhouse case, no one has addressed the likelihood of Kyle being convicted for one or more gun charge. Thoughts? If the gun charge is not dismissed as a matter of law, I think there's a high likelihood he is convicted of minor in possession. It's a misdemeanor. He'll likely get a year of probation, no jail time because he has no criminal history. And then after that, he'll get to have his firearm rights restored because during the probation, he'll have a no firearm restriction, almost guaranteed. David Summers says the defendants in the Arbery trial are likely to be convicted, which means the media can't drum up outrage. That's why the media focuses on Rittenhouse. Nick Beardian says, what good is the Second Amendment if we are protected by the law when we need to use it for self-defense? Do we even have a Second Amendment at that point? Remember, we're supposed to be protected from the government by the Second Amendment as well. But I agree right now, the status of the Second Amendment is in severe doubt. 4Chain and 4Chanimal says, I demand Nikki Rackett's branded Groucho glasses and tell her I'm coming. I'll be right there. And then Alexander says, can the police deem a person acted in self-defense and not arrest? Yes, they do with relative frequency. But the question of charging is not up to the police. The question of charging would be up to the district attorney or a grand jury, depending on the state that they're in. And they can also choose not to charge based on self-defense. This has happened on numerous occasions as well. All right, guys, that's it. That was a little daughter telling me that I need to go. So I will hopefully see some of you tonight. If I didn't get to your questions and comments now on this show, again, I will tonight. And I'm really sorry that we didn't get there at this point. Thank you all for supporting the show. And I will definitely, I hope, see you Monday for the biggest part of this testimony. All right, guys, thanks a bunch. Have a good night. Peace.
We're pretty sure we have a mistrial here, sir.
I'm going to mistrial my foot up your ass. You don't shut up.